Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Can anybody hear me out there? If anybody's listening, can you at least put a one in the chat if you can hear me? All right. I just have to pretend that everybody can hear me. Steep Technology, what's good, bruh? Garner Dan, what's good, bruh? How you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. Steep Technology, you're new. Definitely welcome to the panel and welcome to the chat. Welcome to the platform. Yeah, thank you all for joining us. This is open chat number 3. We started doing open chats just as a way to get away from the main focus of the channel, which is delivering content that's going to enrich black people's lives, especially black men. So open chat is to kind of, freestyle. If guys from the from the chat want to get on the panel, you can get on the panel. We can chop up some serious game. If you got questions, mentorship, want to go to college, trying to find another career. You want to know how the Lakers are doing. Anything you want to bring up, man, we can just come on the panel. We can talk about it. Or if you want to stay in the chat, you can stay in the chat. No big deal. We're gonna do this for like a few hours, man. Then we're gonna close out. But yeah, peace to Marvin, peace to Faber. Ayo, what's going on? What's your thoughts on Cloud Plus? Cloud Plus is necessary. It's a foundational exam. So if you can pass Cloud Plus, that's going to kind of give you a perspective on on cloud computing, in which direction you want to go into. Once you get Cloud Plus and you can, you score pretty high on that, you can probably walk in and take an AWS exam. I think like 50 to 60% of Cloud Plus, at least the last time I checked, was in line with AWS exam criteria. So if you can pass A plus, I mean not A plus, but Cloud Plus, you should be able to, take an AWS exam, at least the foundations exam, and come out pretty good. It's a good primer, if anything else. No one really requires Cloud Plus, but it's actually a good primer to have. It's better than not having it at all. If your A plus is going to expire or your Network Plus is going to expire, definitely revitalize that cert with the Cloud Plus. It's a gimme for the most part if you can study for it. Keep it techie, Josh. What's going on, bro? I hope that new role is working out for you. Tyrese Mitchell, what's going on? Marvin says, yeah, I have a question. I am trying to create a tech startup and would like to know how. I have the idea, prototype, and would like to know the next steps. Definitely reach out to your local SBA, Small Business Alliance. They can help you walk through the process of the paperwork and they have an accelerator as well. I think it's called a startup accelerator. You should definitely check that out in your local area. So look up the SBA in your zip code. They can definitely help you out with the process behind that. And they actually have funding for it too. If you're a black man, you got to take advantage of the minority funding because it's available for you. You probably get up to, I think, like $50,000 in the grants or something like that. I know some black women were getting up to like 150, 120K of grants and stuff to start their businesses. So definitely tap into that. AO, he Marvin asked about a tech startup. So minority funding is available for black and brown people in their local regions. Yep, Dr. Phoenix. Yep, Dr. Phoenix says if you're a veteran, there are special SBA loans you can receive. Yep, he's right on the money with that. Um, do I charge for mentoring? I don't charge anything for mentoring. Mentorship is something you do from the heart, man. You don't do that for money. Anybody who charges you money for mentorship, you should look at them, with the raised eyebrow and the side eye. Castle Dragon, what's going on, man? Hey, Dr. Phoenix, if you want to get on the panel, man, shoot me your email. Definitely bring you on the panel. We could chop up some game too. Steep Technologies asks, as you progress in your career, have you used guidance from a mentor? All the time, all the time. And it doesn't. You don't have to actually have a deep relationship with a mentor. You can. My director is my mentor right now. He sits down with me for at least an hour a day, and we chop up game. Um, so I have other people that are mentors to me too. So I reach out to them on LinkedIn when I need to. But every time I bump into them, I don't have to ask, for guidance. They just offer it to me. They drop some gems on me. I just listen. Don't interrupt them. Just listen. Soak up the game. You heard it before. Okay, well, listen to it again. That's how it should be. Because there's people who have walked in your shoes, so they know what you're going through. And what happens here is, um, they know what stage you're at, so they're going to drop that gem on you again, and you don't have to ask for that. I dropped the email into the chat, Dr. Phoenix, so you can send your send an email to me, or to the Black Brain Trust, I should say. Sorry. Yeah, if anybody else wants to get on the panel, shoot an email. Definitely try to get you on there. Yeah, so had an interesting week last week. Talked about this yesterday, but I'll reiterate it again. I went to Black Tech Fest last week. It was dope. Met a lot of young brothers up in there, really doing the damn thing. Um, a lot of cats, bachelor's degree, double bachelor's degree, master's degrees. Um, young brothers, man, millennials, really putting in work. I was very impressed by what I saw out there. So I have a lot of hope in terms of where black men are going in this day and age. If we had to use if we had to use YouTube, Black YouTube, as a barometer as to where the black community is going, man, that would be DOA, man. Be dead on arrival. Let's be frank. What's going on, bro? So yeah, I went to Black Tech Fest, man. Had a great time. Can't complain about what I saw up in there. hmm Abdullah, how do you how do you research the minority funding? You got to look in look up the SBA in your area. They usually have you got to go into the office. You can't just call. You got to go into the office on foot, and they'll give you all the numbers and what you qualified for and things like that. They'll help you. There's classes too. Your local library should actually have classes for small businesses, and they'll help you get that up and going. You take those classes, you usually get a certificate at the end. At least where I'm from, that's how it is. And it doesn't cost you anything either. I think the classes are usually free. Yeah, there should be a SBA always within the 15 to 20 minutes range for you. Um, the SBA is actually a really good platform. You should also look at the Black Chamber of Commerce in your area. Black Chamber of Commerce. Look that up in your area. There's usually one in every black community. You got to leverage both of those resources because you can get, you know, loans from the SBA, and you'll probably get grants from the Black Chamber of Commerce. You know what I'm saying? So now you don't even have to come out of your pocket. But your business plan got to be solid. It can't be no flaky stuff. It can't be a barbershop or a beauty salon. I talked to them last year, and we've talked about this before on the panel, on past hangouts. These angel investors and um, community banks and stuff like that, they don't want to fund any more barbershops and beauty salons and you know uh, rib shacks and stuff like that. They don't want to do that anymore because those are not high growth markets. Like, yeah, it's a staple within the community itself, but it's not a high growth market. Uh, what they're looking at is, can you create the next Facebook? Can you create the next Android phone or the next mobile app, the next Instagram? That's what they're looking at. They're looking for those high growth markets, and they don't want to spend any more resources on the same recycled soup, just warmed over another day. They don't want to do that anymore. Here you go right here. I'll drop the link in the hangout. Um, Chicago or Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce. So make sure you jump on that. Get a membership too. And don't just show up there because you want to start a business. Show up there to shake hands and stuff. share my screen for those of you who may not be looking at your mobile. This is it. This is it right here. That's a great picture to look at. All those black people up there, well dressed and distinguished. But that's the Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce. Let me just read it real quick, just to pass the time. Illinois' Black Chamber of Commerce is the largest, most active voice for black businesses in the state of Illinois. We were incorporated in 1997 as a member of the National Black Chamber of Commerce. Our primary objective is to help promote job creation and growth among black businesses. Subsequently, we have emerged as the leading advocate and the go-to agency for many state and local entities, as well as corporations, to propagate these very principles. Through our strong membership and network base of local chapters and businesses, we proactively work to promote a healthier business environment and economic empowerment through entrepreneurship. So that's what you're talking about doing, Marvin, entrepreneurship. That's what they support. So you should probably attend this event right here, August 7th to the 8th, 14th annual state convention. Yep, follow them on Twitter. Follow them on Facebook. Yeah, but make sure your business plan is also game tight, man. That you can speak. You know, your elevator pitch has to be game tight. You only got 30 seconds to sell it, so make sure that whatever it is that you're trying to sell, um, that is tight. Yeah, talk to Kevin Samuels, man. Shout out to Kevin Samuels, the image guy. He's really good at helping you get your elevator pitch on in terms of networking and stuff like that. Yeah, the SBA actually has business accelerators for minority businesses. So you just got to take some time out of your day and actually go down there, because it usually happens in the morning or the daytime. They never have anything on the weekend, from what I can tell. Yeah, so that's basically what I did, last week, man. Went to a couple of art shows, black art shows, man, and saw some dope material. Needed to support that. When I get my new crib, man, it's gonna be decked out with a lot of black art up in there, man. Airbrushed, canvas, dope stuff, man. I love all that stuff, man. Let me try to send you another link. Check your email, Dr. Phoenix. Have you seen the YouTube video Bloomberg Inside China's High-Tech Dystopia about Shenzhen? I haven't seen that. Rainy Woman, you can come on. Let me send you the link. No, that's not the link. So yeah, that's how my week been going, man. I did some volunteer work um, up on the farm with with the indigenous people, man. Ran into some brothers who are basically indigenous people, man. They were melanated, but they were Indian. Um, and the brothers spoke the language like it was nothing, man. Like I was blown away, blown away. The cat looked like he looked like Nipsey Hussle, but he can speak, the indigenous language front to back fluently. And he knew his history. He could trace his lineage and all that stuff, man. It was just dope, man. Just um, good to see cats like that, man, really putting in work, man. And they had they had blessed me. They had the incense, not the incense, but the I don't even know what you call it, man. It was this fire ball. It was this bowl with some kind of like herbs or something like that in it, man. And they put it under my arms and um under my feet and stuff like that. Had to take my shoes off, man. It was dope, man. It's good to see cats like that out there in the field, still maintaining culture, still maintaining, still fighting for reparations and land reclamations out there. So yeah, it was definitely powerful, man. It was definitely powerful. These cats got acres of land that they got from the government, man. They fought for, and they turned it into it's a farm, but they fought for it, and we was just up there volunteer with them to actually help them get the farm off the ground, um, get it up in production and ready to go, so you can get the shares out by the end of the summer. Um, I'm sorry about that, Dr. Phoenix. Let me send you another one. Make sure your Google Chrome is up on 75 version 75. There's a new version of Google Chrome out, so make sure you update that first too before you even think about getting on if you're having problems. All right. Let me see if anybody else is still having problems. I just sent you another link, Dr. Phoenix. Reigning woman, if you're having issues too, let me know and I can send you another link. Actually, let me send you another link anyways, just to see if either one of those work. Mm. So yeah, man, we cracked 1,500 subscribers, man, for the month. Um, yeah, so shout out to the Black Brain Trust and everybody, all the contributors and all the people who stopped through and gave us thumbs up and shared our videos and stuff like that, man. Left comments under the video. That's definitely welcome, man. We hit 1,500 when we first started the Black Brain Trust. We thought we were only going to have around 200 to 250 subscribers, and that was it. Turned out, man, a year later, man, we're pushing for 2,000 subscribers, man. So we got maybe what 5 to 10% of what the Black YouTube has to offer in terms of constituency. That's not bad, man, because you think about what the talented tenth was, right? The 10%, right? Um, that's that seems about typical. Seems about right. So when we first started doing these hangouts, man, we used to have like maybe five, six people watching. You know, two of the viewers were probably me in another computer logged in. We didn't have a whole lot of viewers, man. People were just like, y'all were boring. We were real amateurish, man. We didn't have like good microphones and stuff like that. We had bad mics. Um, we had a lot of stage fright. We didn't know what we were doing. We knew what we wanted to do, but we weren't doing it as professionally as we are right now. But the format has stayed the same for the most part. I sent out the link, Complex. Abdullah. Abdullah says last week it was mentioned that other communities keep the dollar in the community longer. Can you discuss how this can be done from the top from clothing and shelter to other products? I'm not quite sure what you're asking. Steve Technologies ask, what was the motivation for creating the Black Brain Trust? Oh man, motivation, man. We used to be on other people's platforms, man, and we like to talk about this geeked out stuff, this nerd stuff, man. Not so much as comic books, but more along the lines of STEM and just innovation. And we tried it on other people's platforms, and it didn't go too well. People, there was a lot of that effery that was going on. They were pushing back against the intellectualism, and we were like, wow, where else are we gonna go and do this, man? And Lionel came up with the idea of doing a 3-day week hangout on this type of stuff. So shout out to Lionel. Lionel played an instrumental role in really putting this all together. He had a lot of passion to do this, so we just got right behind him and said, um, yeah, we're gonna do this. So um, it wasn't always called the Black Brain Trust. It was young Grizzly actually came up with the term Black Brain Trust one day, and we ran with it. And young Grizzly's one of the founding members of the Black Brain Trust. He played an instrumental role as well. He's not really around right now. He has other things that he's doing, but he's a critical piece to the organization. Um, And that's how it kind of came about. We were talking one day. We were kind of sick and tired of what we saw in the manosphere, man, and we decided that we need to do. We want to see better. We wanted to see better, and that's how we came about. I'm surprised nobody's getting the Hangout link. No one's able to get on. No, I got the link just fine. I'm not sure what's going on. I sent that to you, Complex. Um, so yeah, that's how the that was the motivation for creating the Black Brain Trust, man. We wanted something better. We wanted to see black people, more importantly, black men, do better, and that's how we reached this plateau that we're at right now. Sometimes you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, man. You gotta go. Somebody has to do it. Nothing's gonna get done right unless you do it yourself, man. So we have to do it ourselves.
Yo, Mike, can you hear me?
Hey, yes, sir.
Okay, there it goes. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, man. What's good, everyone?
Yeah, yeah. What's going on, bro? Yeah, there's
Yep.
two different links, man. I just noticed that. One link that I'm using for my account is different than what the actual host account has. I'm not
Hmm.
sure what's going on with YouTube and some of those changes. I've never seen that before, but
Okay. What we on now, man?
yeah, we are. We
Yeah.
chilling. Um, what's on your mind, Dr. Phoenix? What brings you around here?
We got somebody that joined us?
Yeah, Dr. Phoenix is on.
Oh, okay. Peace.
I yeah yeah. Dr. Phoenix was. I saw Dr. Phoenix over on King Sigma's channel, and so I recognize his name. I heard him talking, man, and you was dropping some real gems over there. So I figured you could come on the panel as well.
Okay.
Yeah, let me. Yeah, I wonder if King Sigma was around as well. Maybe send him a link as well.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of hot in some other areas of the manosphere right now. I'm a little late
Oh,
getting
really?
on. Yeah, well, me and Lionel, man. Just to follow up because I was listening in to what you were saying. Lionel and I actually we're putting together the Slack group right now for all the various projects that are brain trust related. So, like folks should be getting hit off with invites to join our Slack group, and that's what we were just working on for me like the last 20-30 minutes. So we just finished up doing that. But I was listening in, and yeah, I mean, there might be some people on other sectors of YouTube right now, man, because those kind of discussions that are being had right now, and that's more enthralling than some of the things that we talk about here. So it is what it is.
Hmm. Mike Rizzi, what's going on, bro? Like the
Yeah.
name. Um, Marvin Evans, you want to join, man? You got to drop your email in the chat, man.
Um, hey, let me address Bobby's question real quick. So he's talking about how do we keep the dollar circulating? That's kind of the gist of the question, I think. It was last week. It was mentioned other communities keep the dollar in the community for longer. Can you discuss how this can be done from top to bottom, from clothing and shelter to other products? Mm. It's all about business infrastructure, man. It's basically what it is that we talk about. Taking ownership of various various industries and stuff like that, and then also leveraging black banking institutions, right? So the money circulating through black businesses, and either those black businesses are banking with or banking with black banks. In addition to that, the employees of those businesses are also banking with black banks, and this is how the dollar circulates amongst the black community, right? Because your banks are kind of like your warehouse, your financial warehouse stash clearinghouses, right? and then all of your businesses are going to be your revenue generators, right? Where money gets collectivized for product. So it's kind of just like a, if you, what's that symbol for, like the for recycling? It's like three arrows that are in like a triangle. You know,
Yep.
think of it like that.
Hmm. And the other aspect is that we don't have a actual black banking system. So there's a black bank here and there, but for the most part, there's no black banking system in place, right?
Right.
So the reason why Chinatown thrives in the way that it does is because they have their own banking system for one, and number two, they have their own language, and they enforce their language in your face. They don't even have to speak English because they don't deal with you. There's Chinese people who have been here for damn near 20, 30 years, don't speak a lick of English because they don't have to. They don't operate outside of their network.
Mm. So I never heard of a, what you said, you never heard of a black chamber. I mean, we do have black chambers of commerce. They're
Yeah,
not.
I talked about earlier.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they need to be. We need those need to be more robust in terms of the membership and the effects, what it is that they're able to do for its members. But they do exist. We that's kind of where it's incumbent upon us to sort of take a foothold of what infrastructure we do have and then build on top of it. You know,
Mhm.
so I don't really take the pessimistic approach to it. I mean, the institutions are there is for us to build on top of them, right? And take them where they need to go.
Mhm. Dr. Phoenix, can you hear us?
Yeah, is he there? But I think he might
Yeah, I
still be
think he has
muted.
mic issues.
Okay,
I think he's having mic issues.
all right. So what's the deal, Mike? What else been going on, man?
Just chilling, man. Just chilling, man. I talked about Black Tech Fest. That I attended the other day. Went to the farm, the Indigenous Farm Global Village. Shout out to them.
Hey,
The
did
Indigenous
you
brothers up
do you, did you speak to them brothers, man? Like about perhaps coming on or something?
there. Which ones?
The brothers from the farm.
Oh, I'm gonna be going up there. I think next Saturday, so I'll link up with them then. Yeah, man. They one of the dopest brothers I've seen in a long time, man.
Yeah.
I
I
like
mean, you
seeing
were telling
brothers
me about them a couple of weeks ago.
multifaceted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Dr. Phoenix needs to log on and log off if he can hear us, because I think he's having communications
Trouble.
issues here.
Okay. One other thing, Bobby, just to even talk, what Mike mentioned about, brothers that are farming and stuff like that. I mean, we can, if we really if we were to really dig deep into creating like a a black business infrastructure, right? We would even need to probably even break that up by sections, like tech based, tech based business activities, uh, banking, insurance, and real estate, like maybe automotive and, transport. Like these are all going to be like subsectors, right, of one main ecosystem, you know, because then there's other financial services and products, right, that are specific and that are niche to all of these subcategories and these, So when Mike mentioned, the brothers that he had discussed with us, and all this like on a private discussion we had about these brothers that are involved, farming and stuff like that. So there's things that go along with the farming sector, for example, with regards to like produce and all that type of stuff. So I mean, when you
Yeah.
really get into it, man, if it, and it's always, I don't want to say, I don't want to put too much out there, right? But like a part of what we're doing with creating this Slack group and all of that is we're kind of doing just that. That's what Lionel and I were working on for the past half hour. It's like, we have a primary group where a lot of the members of the Brain Trust and the people that are involved with this. So that's people like y'all, in the chat, but then also offline might be, joining Lionel's blockchain group. which I'm a part of also, but that's headed by him. So there's going to be projects that are then created under that blockchain study group, right? Then with that study group, people will be gaining certifications, right? And then from that point, you then are going to be in a realm where then you can start to actually use and leverage this stuff,
Okay.
in like in a production environment, if you will, right? So now that you have your certifications, then work can be done in exchange for money for creating blockchain applications and all that type of stuff. And then in addition to that, some of the other subgroups, because there's other people in the Brain Trust who have businesses and stuff like that and initiatives in other industries and in other areas, right? Where blockchain could then apply to these other areas, so then it starts to then trickle into other facets. And this is what we mean. It's got to be a deliberate, it's got to be a structured, deliberate objective that we're trying to execute here. And it's not just merely this is much more than hangouts, bro. I'm gonna be 100% real with you. What the Brain Trust is about is way more. The hangouts is maybe just, I don't know, what would you say, Mike, 35% of what we actually about?
Hey, can you
Nah,
guys hear
man,
me?
we can hear you, bro.
Hey, there you go. What's going on, brother?
Okay. All right. I'm so sorry. Wow. Just all kinds of
No,
technical issues.
No, you all good. You all good.
All right.
no,
I'm sorry.
no.
Go ahead, brother. Just finish.
It's about one quarter, man. 20 to 25% of
25.
what we do,
There you go.
and then the offline, man. For me, YouTube is only like 5%.
Right.
It's only a couple hours in the night, man. Sometimes if the hangout starts late, it's because I'm at another event offline, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm already at a different meetup. I'm already doing networking. I'm already connecting with some other cats and shaking hands and doing FaceTime with other people, man. And then I got to come back and do the hangouts. So I got to work from 8 to 5, man, and then get off, and then from 6 to 8, 6 to 9 o'clock, I'm at a meetup or something like that, and then I'm coming back to the to the Black Brain Trust to fire up a hangout, and on the weekends, same thing, man. I'm out there, attending different events, different art shows and stuff like that, man. So
Mm-hmm.
YouTube is like
A part of it. It's just a small
very
part,
small
man.
percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's good, Dr. Phoenix?
All right. I'm so sorry. Good God. So
No, you good,
anyhow,
man. You good.
yeah. So anyhow, I guess I don't. I guess I thought I heard the brother earlier say he heard me over at King Sigma's channel the other day.
Yeah, that was Mike.
Okay, yeah. So again, I'll just give a brief introduction to who I am. So I am a veteran. I have 2 degrees. My first degree is in chemistry with a focus in biochemistry, and my second degree is a BSN, Bachelor of Science in Nursing. My first degree I went to school in Australia. My second degree I did here in Wisconsin at the University of Wisconsin. I was what we call a Ronald E. McNair Scholar. I assume some of the brothers might be familiar with that program. So if anyone doesn't know what that is, so at undergrad level, you have a series of scholarly type programs that are meant for folks if you're if you're at a university to get into research, or if you're looking to matriculate into PhD, medical school, stuff like that, programs. And so typically, they only let in about 15 to 20 people tops for this program. It's a federally funded research post baccalaureate program. So it's through the graduate school. And pretty much every major school has it for the most part. But again, like I said, it's meant specifically for, quote, I hate to use this, minorities. But really, if anyone's familiar with the story of Ronald E. McNair, he's a black physicist, but he died aboard the Challenger in '86.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
and so he actually, the program was started in his name, but about a couple years before he died in that explosion, he talked at his alma mater, South Carolina, about getting more black folks into STEM and medicine and stuff like that. So yeah, so I did that, and then so So right now, as I've said over at King Sigma's channel, I'm starting medical school in a couple months, and so I've been a critical care nurse and also a researcher now for about 2.5 years now. Yeah, about 2.5 years. So yeah, so I've done research from everything from chronic disease, cancer, diabetes, ocular diseases, and I've done a limited amount of research with cancer and as well as with the NIH. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay.
So yeah.
Let me ask you, man. Like, what are your thoughts on say like hemp and cannabis, given your background?
I'll tell you this much. I know here in Wisconsin, it's actually a big thing in Wisconsin because right now, currently, there is a bill on the dockets that it will be. I think it will be appearing in the 2020 election cycle, where they're looking to legalize marijuana. In the near future. So, but CBD is obviously legal here. Actually, I was just at a store about a couple weeks ago, at a mall here in Wisconsin. And yeah, my personal opinion on it, I mean, I've known people who've used it. I have never personally used it, but every person I know used it had great, it's shown very promising anything from cancer, dealing with diabetes, pretty much across the board, dealing with chronic diseases, been very helpful. I do know of the research out there as it relates to CBD being used as an antibiotic. I believe you gentlemen were talking a bit about that the other night.
Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah, and I am familiar with some of the research out there on that. Right now, it just kind of more or less it's just only been in animal trials. So if anyone understands how clinical research goes, and this is whether you're dealing with pharmaceuticals or whatnot, but typically you start at small scale with mice, and then you scale it up to like something like maybe larger animals like monkeys or something like that, and then eventually it moves to human trials, which are usually small trials. You know, sometimes anywhere between a decent clinical trial would be maybe about 20 to maybe 100 people, and then they'll scale it up to even larger before eventually they feel that it's safe and it's effective, and then it be approved. The interesting thing about that, a medication only has to be about 40 to 50% effective to be approved for actual distribution. So as it relates to CBD, I mean, CBD is very promising. Again, a lot of the mechanisms behind its antibiotic properties aren't really known. I mean, because like I said, it just is only within recent years has really the research on CBD. You know, people have known about it for many years, but again, it's only in recent years where some of the research and much larger medical institutions have really started taking a real look at the effects of CBD, and as well as what it can do with patients, and specifically those who are dealing with seizures, cancer, neurological disorders like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, stuff like that. The VA specifically, because I am a veteran, I was a medic for about almost 6 years in the U.S. Army. So the VA does. I mean, they were one of the first ones to really to legalize the use of medical marijuana and such like that. So they've been sort of at the forefront with pushing it. They've been doing it for a number of years now with it. And again, you know, they've used it from everything for dealing with PTSD, dealing with ocular issues, and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's, you know, dealing with chronic pain. That's a big area for CBD right there, is dealing with chronic pain. Obviously, you know, everyone is familiar with, you know, the opioid crisis and, you know, trying to cut back people's dependence on opioids, and also with prescribers prescribing opioid as well, because of the sheer ease of abusing opioids. So
Lockheed Martin.
Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Lockheed Martin has huge investments into cannabis.
Yeah. Actually,
they're getting into that sector.
Yeah. You know, again, you know, in terms of just with, you know, Lockheed is one of the big defense contractors. Again, you know, Raytheon, some of the other ones, Boeing, whatever. You know, but again, I mean CBD right now. You know, right now we're just at the cusp of just sort of the impact it's having on the market. You know, within the next 5 to 10 years, I mean, we're going to see a completely different branch of pharmaceuticals and pharmacy in general. I mean,
Yep.
typically, you know, when we deal with pharmaceuticals, you know, you're dealing with it along a disease process. So you have your disease, you have your drugs for your cardiac, you have your drugs for cancer, you have your drugs for diabetes, whatever, you know, neurological issues, whatever, Alzheimer's. I mean, right now, and I think that's actually, to be honest, that's actually another big area where CBD might be very impactful, because especially speaking, because one of the initiatives I'm working on now here in Wisconsin is with the All of Us program and the Precision Medicine Initiative. If anyone's familiar with that, that was the uh, oh my God, that was the initiative that Obama has signed into law back in, I want to say 2012, 2013, I want to say, maybe. But anyhow, so now they're just really pushing it forward. It's a national program, and so, but it's all being scaled down to local and to state and local level. So if you, whatever state you all in, they have some variation of that program. And so it's basically a big national push to get biobanks, to get biological material from participants. So, you know, you're looking at blood, urine, stuff like that, get some physiological data, height, weight, you know, whatever. And so basically looking to get a biobank and eventually study that and look for genetic variations among different groups of people, and specifically as it pertains to CBD and neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and MS, and specifically Alzheimer's and dementia. Black people are more prone to developing Alzheimer's in their lifetime. The numbers are pretty staggering, somewhere around 50%. So
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that. It's interesting that you bring that up, because we covered a hangout talking about this before. But leveraging machine learning and AI,
yeah,
to on children who may have Asperger's or autism,
yeah,
which will lead to early forms of Alzheimer's.
yeah. And it's interesting you said that, because I have an ex-girlfriend. She's a data scientist. So she,
Yep.
you know, her background was in electrical engineering. She was a data scientist. So she dealt, she specifically dealt with machine learning and ocular diseases. So we were looking at wet, dry macular degeneration and diabetic retinopathy and glaucoma. So she was developing algorithms around that. And actually, some of the work that some of my initial research I did was specifically looking at developing algorithms for diagnosing diabetes and diabetic retinopathy over time in patients. And so, yeah, it's a really great point. I mean, and I would say this, because I know a lot of brothers, most of the brothers here are in tech. There's a booming area in tech that I think a lot of folks don't typically talk about, and that's healthcare. And here's the thing about it, is that specifically AI learning and machine learning in healthcare is the next wave. It's the new wave of the future. I mean, right now,
we actually just covered. We
Yeah.
actually just covered an article last night talking about that. How, you know, the negative side of machine learning and artificial intelligence in healthcare, because if the data gets spoofed, or if the data is toxic, or the data
yeah.
gets poisoned, then what happens here is that the AI can't make a proper decision, and therefore you have malpractice happening on a wide scale.
Yeah, and you're bringing up a good point, because part of the problem with healthcare, and specifically when you're talking about the tech and machine learning, is typically as a whole, healthcare is somewhat solid in this regard, but also maintaining the integrity of the data, and also making sure that the data is secure and is protected, because this is a big problem. So I know if any of your brothers involved with cybersecurity, healthcare might be an area you might consider looking into, because
Yeah,
I'm in life science. I'm in life sciences. I work in cybersecurity and life sciences.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, this is a big area. I mean,
I work for GSK.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, this is a really big area right now that's really exploding within tech, is developing machine learning algorithms and cybersecurity and maintaining the integrity and the security of health records. I mean, I'm sure a lot of brothers might be
PHI.
a lot of brothers might be familiar with the Epic record system. I mean,
Epic is pretty old.
yeah, and you guys know that Epic originated here in Wisconsin, in Madison, Wisconsin. And so it was created by a computer scientist and her husband, who was a physician. So it was so basically all your Epic consultants, everybody that works in Epic, or that's a part of it, they come to Wisconsin, specifically Madison, to get trained. And my ex-girlfriend, she was Epic certified, and I can tell you right now, if any brothers are interested, I can tell you right now, the consulting jobs for that were the pay for that was pretty damn off the chart. So it was really nice. I mean, it's very, very niche and very specialized, but again,
That's what makes it valuable.
yeah. So I mean, yeah.
And they can't bring in any H-1B visas because that's been shut down the last year or so.
Yeah. So it's all
since Trump has
homegrown
come into
talent.
office.
Yeah, it's home.
And what they're doing is I don't mean to interrupt you, Dr. Phoenix. They're going to the HBCUs and they're looking for brothers. They're going down to Morehouse.
Yeah.
They want black men. If they can't get an Indian man, they want a black man, or they want an African man, because most of the former colonial states were colonized by the British, and they speak very good English, and they fit the minority quota, right? So that's what they're looking at. So it's important. That's why we have these hangouts, man. And Dr. Phoenix, you're new to this, but we have these hangouts to put emphasis behind a lot of what you're saying. We do this every single week, and we've been doing it for over a year.
Absolutely.
You know, and I'm glad, because one of the big things that I try to push is, like, for example, I have 4 mentees. So I have 2 twin sisters that I'm mentoring. They're currently in the nursing program, and I just picked up 2 young brothers. They're 18, and they just graduated from high school, and one of the brothers, he got a full paid scholarship to one of the private universities here in Wisconsin. And so he's looking to do nursing. And so, I've been sitting down with him for probably about the past 3-4 months now. And so I've been helping him get a plan together, kind of let him know, here's what you can do in nursing, but if you're looking to go to the next level, you're looking to become a really highly paid, professional here, here's some areas that are opening up. And so, think about some careers along this trajectory, because, many of my mentors, my very first mentor I picked up, because I'm not originally from Wisconsin. I grew up in Chicago. And so, but my first mentor I picked up was my very first day in nursing school at UW, at University of Wisconsin. And she's an older black woman, a baby boom. But however, this woman, she's had a PhD longer than I've been alive. I mean, she was one of some of the very first nurses to get PhDs, and she's done her stuff in health policy and genetics, and she's done research, because if anyone's not familiar, you have the NIH, but NIH has 27 schools of health. And so the CDC and all of that falls within that. So you have like the libraries of medicine. Nursing has one called the National Institute of Nursing Research. And so again, and she's done research at this level, at this national level, because to become one of the schools of the NIH, it has to be a congressional mandate. Only Congress can mandate that.
Right.
And
now,
so,
I'm curious, Dr. Phoenix, because I know somebody in that area who kind of fits the description, and I'm wondering if I might be thinking about the same person. Was she involved with the University of Northwestern?
Yes, actually, that's where she got a PhD from, was from the University of Northwestern. Yes.
Interesting. I don't know if I want to put her name out there.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, man, if well, you know what? Let's talk about that later, man.
We can certainly talk about that later. But I bring this up because I first heard about you gentlemen, from O'Shea Duke Jackson's channel, and so I've listened in on some of your other broadcasts, and no, I thought it was very interesting. I mean, again, not a lot of folks here, because you talking real stuff. You know, you're talking about stuff to get brothers really prepared for to be accomplished in the 21st century. And I don't think you know, one of the big things I try to impart on even my mentees and is that, you know, most Black folks just are not prepared for the 21st century. I don't think most Black folks have even the slightest clue just the proliferation of knowledge out that's happening right now.
Man, we're working hard on it, man. We host a hangout, what, Mike? Literally every day now, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
about.
we used to do it just 3 days a week. We used
Yeah.
to do it 3 days a week. Now we do it just about every opportunity if you get. And open chat, you know, was just something new that came up this month. So to bring people like you even on. But I want to share my screen real quick because Keep It Techie asked.
Yeah, we got some
Keep
questions.
It Techie asked. Yeah, Keep It Techie asked a question. He said, "Where is Black Tech Fest held?" So Tech Fest is a Boston thing. So if you look at if you're looking at your screen right now, the woman that you see at the top, man, sister, man, she's one of the dopest Black women I've ever met, man. Really putting in work. Came from Google, and started her own brain trust. So the Black Tech Fest is her thing. And you only see a few people in the audience right now, but brothers in the audience got bachelor's degrees, double bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, man. They would be the constituents of the Black Brain Trust. That event is a Black Brain Trust event.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. So what they're discussing that night is cloud computing and DevOps, man. And the stuff that I hear, man, is to see nerdy brothers, man, you know, who don't fit the Urkel stereotype, who don't look like Carlton Banks, man. Just the brother in the picture, man, got cornrows, man. Other brothers in there with dreadlocks. You know, just seeing that sort of diversity, man. Brown skin, light skin, dark skin, man. Everybody's just, you know, vibing together, and the events popping. Everybody's drinking alcohol and just chilling. We have to crush these stereotypes about Black men, Black male excellence.
Well, Mike,
That there's this sort of idea that you're.
You know as well as you know as I know, man, that stereotype is bogus, and it's bogus for a number of very disingenuous reasons, man. You already know that, you know, intelligence comes in all forms, all shades, you know, dreaded, cornrows, afro, baldy, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
We had a great time, man, and just I exchanged a lot of LinkedIn contacts, business cards. You know, cats in there making 100, 120, 150. You know, and nobody's hating on each other. No one's throwing salt on each other. It's crazy to hear in Black YouTube, they make out these guys to be incels, involuntary celibate. You know, they're awkward. Yeah. They don't know what they're talking about, and it's like
socially awkward.
You all have never been out there. Yeah, you guys have never really interacted.
Go ahead, man. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't want to cut the brother off because I think this needs to be said, man. Last year I was in St. Louis, so I was at the University of Washington. I was at at their medical school, and I'm also a member of the NBNA, which is the National Black Nurses Association. And I know brothers that one of these brothers is a personal mentor of mine, but I know brothers that were nurse practitioners, got PhDs. One of my, in fact, this specific brother, he's a personal mentor of mine. He was the first Black man to ever get a damn PhD in nursing. Had a PhD before I was even born. And he's the current dean of a Big Ten of a nursing school at a Big Ten school. And I know three brothers. One of the brothers I know, he used to run the New York Institute of Technology School of Nursing and their allied health program. Another brother I know, he used to run the Charles Drew school of medicine. And so again, and you see these brothers, very, obviously they're older gentlemen, baby boomer type brothers. But then I'm at this conference last summer, and we're in downtown St. Louis, and there's brothers there, brothers showing up there with dreads and all kinds of stuff. These brothers are, these brothers got like bachelor's degrees. Brothers over there that are, that are CRNAs and brothers aren't familiar with that, you have something called CRNA, which is Certified Registered Nurse Anesthetist. And basically, they're the nurse equivalent of an anesthesiologist.
Yeah.
And so,
They put you to sleep.
yeah, and people, these things are very, very difficult these are very difficult programs in. So when I'm seeing these, I'm seeing brothers for the first time in these programs, and in these various specialties in nursing, and I'm like, wow, because when I went to school here, when I went to nursing school, I was the only black man in the program. And I had this triple minority status, because if brothers don't know, if you go into specifically healthcare, you get this double minority status. But because I was a veteran, I hit this triple minority status. So basically, black male, and a veteran. Because in nursing or medicine, we're less than 1% of the total population. Black men make up less than 1%. And
we actually have another Brain Trust member. We actually have another Brain Trust member who goes by the title of Foxfire, and he does the same thing that you do.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I'm sitting at this national conference, but then you have all these brothers. They come from all different walks of life. They came from all different schools, and they don't look anything like these silly stereotypes you hear. And again, and I, don't get me wrong, I like some of the cats I do like that I hear out of the black YouTube, but most of the stuff is just straight garbage.
Well, a lot of these black stereotypes, they're convenient for the type of discussions that are had on YouTube. But when you have to factor in that, these discussions are largely for entertainment value, right? Like these aren't discussions that are really truly had in the tone of seriousness that we have them. Because like you said, what the 21st century holds for us going into the future, and the amount of knowledge that's coming out related to all of these things, it's so much that, if the information that you take in on your free time is largely just for your own entertainment and not to inform you, right, and to empower you with information, then there's going to come a time here in the very short term future here where everything's going to confuse you.
Yeah. No, I agree.
No, I was just going to say that because you said like 80% of the stuff in the manosphere or the black YouTube is like garbage. We've been talking about that since day one, even before we started these hangouts. We were sick and tired of guys running around dripping with whack juice, just whack MCs, man. There's a bunch of skilos, a bunch of Arrested Development, the lead artists there, Milli Vanilli's, man. I just couldn't take it, man. We just couldn't take it. We were tired of that, man.
And don't get me wrong, like I said, I do like the brother Duke O'Shea. I talked to him. He's a good brother. I'm glad he's about to be an MD in the near future. So I'm good at that. But I'm glad for that. But the brothers that I know that have gone this route, and they can tell you, if you're going down anything medicine, healthcare related, this is not a sexy route to go. This is not a sexy thing to do in life. This stuff takes time. The average time it takes to even just get a bachelor's degree in nursing is about 4.5 to 5 years. It takes a long time.
Fast track program.
Yeah, you can.
A fast track program 5. Yeah.
Yeah, you can, but the only way you can do a fast track is either you have to have a previous bachelor's degree, or you're a veteran, or you were a veteran that was either a Navy corpsman or Army medic like myself. That's the only way you can do those fast track programs. And and like I said,
I'm next to Northeastern University. They do have fast track programs, and the community college is actually connected to them. So they have a pre-med program for the community college that sends you directly into that fast track program.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad you bring it up, because one of the things when I go into schools and I go into schools and I'm talking to white kids, I got third graders that can draw out the structure of DNA and can tell me the base components of DNA. And then I go to black schools and I students, you got a whole damn school district here and on the north side of Milwaukee, because I actually live in the suburbs of Milwaukee, but if you go to the north side, that's where black folks at. You know, you got pretty much the entire school district over there. All the damn students are classified as ADHD. Meanwhile, I go into the white school districts. I got third graders that can tell me the structure of DNA and can draw out a damn cell. And yeah, I talk to their black peers of the same age group, same grade, and I can't get nothing. But and again, and I don't think we understand truly just how far behind we are. And just, the information that's coming out every single day, is literally, the landscape is always ever shifting. The knowledge, just tech alone, like I said, I know tons of brothers that are in tech, ex-girlfriend was in tech, I know a ton of people in tech, and you have to stay up to date. You have to stay on your toes. And the same thing goes with any of these professions, healthcare, tech, whatever, STEM, you pick it, you have to stay on your toes. And black folks, and and one of the things, like I said, I teach this to the two young brothers that I'm working with. Like, yeah, I show them, I show emails all the time. Man, I turned down offers from top tier schools to go get double doctorates, but that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do medicine, so I'm doing this route. But but here are things you can do.
You have a question in the chat. Let's see. Andy wants to know, how can you bridge how do you bridge to PA and CNR? This is ask him how to bridge to PA and CRNA program.
You can't. Here's how it works. PA is completely separate. You're talking about a physician assistant. PA is completely separate from nursing. Nursing is considered its own separate industry. I don't even want to call it profession. Profession. It's completely separate. So how it works is that to be a CRNA, you have to be a nurse, because you have to take a very specific track to become a CRNA. One, you have had to be a critical care nurse for a minimum of a year, so about 2,000 hours or so of critical care practice to be a nurse, and you have to have a bachelor's degree in nursing. Now, again, as the brother was just saying, you can get an ADN, you can get it through a community college, which I recommend brothers do this. If you want a really extremely low cost way of becoming a nurse, get you an ADN from a community college. Pretty much your Pell Grants will cover it, because this could be your first degree. And then you get hired as a new RN. You take your NCLEX, pass your NCLEX, get hired as a new RN, and then let your job pay for you to get your bachelor's, because they will pay for you to get your bachelor's. Every single one will. So basically, you can get a damn bachelor's for free. And then
what's the term? The term you just used? You said ADM.
Yeah, it's called Associate's Degree in Nursing. So there, and I can explain here in a second. But to continue with the brother's question. Okay. Yeah, but to continue with the brother's question, no, you have to be a nurse to be a CRNA. There is no bridge, because one, the model that you're taught in are completely different. PAs are taught in the same allopathic model as physicians, whereas CRNAs, nurses, have their own specific model of care that they teach called the nursing model. So it's very different ways of looking at patients and health and the overall health. And typically where PAs, physicians, tend to follow a disease process. Nursing does deal with disease processes, but we also deal with patient. We tend to specialize in population. So, for example, if you're critical care, you might do critical care in a pediatric population, or you might do critical care in adult population or an elderly population. So, again, it's very different models of healthcare and how you view the healthcare. But I'll say this much. Just to give brothers a quick idea why I think nursing should be on a lot of brothers' short list. One, very versatile degree, probably one of the most versatile degrees you can get at an undergrad level. Two, the starting pay coming out can be anywhere between, I ain't seen nothing less than 60. I've seen it as high as damn near 90.
Okay.
If you decide
410s, right?
I only do 312s. I work 36 hours a week.
3 days a week.
Yeah. And I do like a weekend program, so I typically work weekends. So you do 312s, man. You're in the game. You mandated to do 312s as a nurse. You can do. You can do more in likelihood. There's always overtime and whatever to pick up. So your starting pay is nothing, and again. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to brothers. It's not an easy program to get into. especially at the baccalaureate level, is damn near you're not going to see black folks at the baccalaureate level. Just getting into nursing, just coming straight into a 4-year and applying to a baccalaureate program and getting in, you're going to see next to none. And if you do see them, it's typically going to be folks from the diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, I was a little bit of a special case. I had pretty good grades, but also was a veteran and a former medic, so that helped as well. But again, if you decide you want to move beyond that baccalaureate level, you want to become, let's say, like a nurse practitioner. There's different kinds of nurse practitioners. You have critical care, you have emergency, you have family nurse practitioner, you have pediatric nurse practitioner, neonatal, women's, whatever. I mean, typical starting salaries I've seen for that, I ain't seen nothing less than 100 in the vast majority of cases. I've seen some in the high 90s, but typically it's going to be somewhere around 100 to 120, depending on where you're at in the country. If you're a psychiatric nurse practitioner, which are the highest paid nurse practitioners, I've seen starting salaries between 130 and 150. And
you have another question here. You said, because you have mentees. So someone's asking, do you mentor? I'm an LVN and I'm doing my RN in the fall.
Yeah, actually, so I typically, I have my mentees. Like I said, a couple of my mentees, they're already the 2 twin girls that I mentor. They're about 24, but they're in nursing school, so I mentor them. So yeah, I do that. Again, I help them with their pathophysiology. I help them with their pharmacology. I even with my 2 18-year-old brothers, I help them with their biology, their chemistry, their anatomy, physiology. Because again, and the reason I do this, and if you guys were to check out spots like Craigslist, Fiverr, you ain't gonna find folks who will tutor you in biology or any of these hard sciences for less than $50 an hour. I do it for free. And I do it because, again, I think the one brother said it earlier, a mentorship is about you do it for the love because you like to do it. So again, I do it because again, because you have, I do it because I want to see more brothers out here making it. I don't like going places and I'm the only black man in the damn room. I just don't like that.
That's a part of the industry, man. I mean, you probably can speak to this, but in the tech industry, we don't have a whole lot of people that look like us. So when we do run into somebody who does look like us, man, we always try to we have to be humble, and we have to accept the information that's coming from them because they've been in our shoes before. Even if they tell you the same thing over and over, if it's repetitive, you just kind of soak up the game for what it is. That's just the normalcy in terms of mentorship and mentees, mentors and mentees. Passing on that knowledge and that's what we do on the channel.
No, you're 100% correct. In fact, I think I heard you brothers earlier talking about having mentors. You should have no less than 3 mentors, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
The more, the merrier. As far even better. Again, like I said, I got mentors that are physicians. One of my what I consider my top 3 mentors is a brother. He's a family practice doc, but he's a physician CEO that runs like a $40 million health organization. Again, and another one of my mentors, I was talking about it earlier, but she's a woman been doing research in the areas of genetics, genomics, healthcare disparities, health policy for 30 plus years. She's a, long-term professor at UW, in the UW system. She's well known in the nursing world, very well known here in Milwaukee, in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. So, I mean, again, she's done research at the highest levels. We're talking NIH, National Institutes of Nursing Research. She's done it all the way up to that level.
This is the same one from Northwestern?
Yeah, she used to go to Northwestern. I don't know if I don't think she does anything with them now, but she mostly does a lot of her work with the Medical College of Wisconsin, the health department, which is where I do research with them too as well, and with the UW system. So she's pretty much in those areas, and like I was saying before, one of my other closest mentors, the brother that I was talking about, was the very first brother to get a PhD in nursing. dean of a Big Ten nursing school again. And his nursing school has partnerships with the engineering school, because now what's happening in the world of nursing is that you're seeing a lot of cross collaboration between schools of engineering, and specifically in areas of industrial and healthcare engineering, and schools of nursing. Why? Because who knows the layout of a hospital better than a nurse? Right. No one knows a hospital better than a nurse. So, they're involved in designing hospitals, designing a lot of the machines that go in the hospitals, making things more ergonomic, stuff like that. I mean, dealing with big data. And so again, there's a lot of overlap, and I know nurses that went to, really good schools like University of Wisconsin-Madison, that also, when they did their doctorates, they also picked up minors in engineering. So again, I mean, there's a lot of cross play here between a lot of these professions. And again, the data and such, and, just because we live in a time of big data, you're finding this convergence of a lot of these fields that traditionally people would never have thought would be crossing paths with each other. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I dropped a link in the chat, but what he's speaking to, Dr. Phoenix is speaking to, is right on the money. When I was at National Society of Black Engineers conference last year, this was highly discussed. There's a lot of schools restructuring their programs to take on, computer science majors and things like that, to get into nursing, to get into healthcare, and actually have that minor and have that major. So that's what he's saying is actually true. So there's different ways of getting into these programs if you have a STEM background now.
Hey, Dr. Phoenix, we got another.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's the same brother. He says, "How can I get in contact with you?"
Yeah,
I think he's looking to,
Yeah, you can email me at EA Cherry.
No. Drop your
Yeah.
Drop your email in the chat. You have a wrench now.
You have a wrench. So yeah, go ahead. You can put it there.
Okay, let me do this here. Yeah, so
hey, Ronnie Black, what's going on, bro?
What's going on, Ronnie?
Yeah, so I mean, again, like I was saying, I mean, this is what's happening, and I would say now, and I don't think a lot of folks understand what happens if you're looking to do like research, you're looking to go into tech, especially if you're in healthcare, because typically most healthcare degrees at the highest levels require a significant amount of research and specifically technical expertise. So you need to learn how to do like Python and R and SQL and stuff like that. You need to learn how to do this stuff because you work with SAS. And, especially if you're in healthcare research, I mean, healthcare research is all statistics, all of it. It's just all statistics. Yep. And you need to learn some of these basic operating languages. And, even, people wouldn't think, okay, why would nurses and some physicians? You need it because you're dealing with such large amounts of data and nobody knows what to do with it. And there's just all these questions you can ask from it. And so the person that is skilled with handling big data sets, you're going to be able to write your own damn check. That's exactly. Just how it works.
Boom, just like that. And we've been talking about that since the beginning of what you need to be doing. We pointed the resources out on EDX. You can get a data scientist certificate from IBM now. Full-fledged program recognized by most schools. So you can transfer the credits if you want to get a degree in it, a full degree in it. EDX has master's degrees at a fraction of the cost of what a brick and mortar institution would charge you. Nano degrees from Udacity, certificates from Coursera. There's just so many opportunities to get into this stuff. I mean, like Dr. Phoenix is telling you, we've been telling you this for a long time. We covered an article where Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, billionaire, doing exactly what we've been recommending everybody do on the Black Brain Trust. So, yep. You got a billionaire copying the blueprint from us, and you got guys in Black YouTube, sitting on panels debating, who slept with who and whatnot. It's outrageous, brother. It's outrageous, Dr. Phoenix.
Like I said, don't get me wrong. There's a handful of those brothers that I do like. I respect what they've done. I respect their accomplishments. But again, there's this problem that I have with Black folks, and I think this is really prevalent among Black men, is that You think information, we want the information in a feel good form, or a pill that's real easy to swallow. Well, tell us something. We need you to entertain us so we can maintain our
Yes.
attention span. And it's like, look, for folks who want to do healthcare, you want to do these tech jobs, you want to do these really highly technical, you want to be in these very highly technical fields and careers. For example, I give you an example. I give you a prime example. And when I was in nursing school, part of what makes nursing school so hard, your lectures are all 3 hours, and you got like 3 or 4 of them a day. You send in 2 or 3 hour lectures 3-4 days out of the week. You got all day clinicals 2 or 3 days out of the week. And I did this while I had a critical care internship and did research. And so again, like I said, these aren't sexy jobs, but this is just where the playing field is at right now. This is where the playing field has leveled out to now. Now that just to even get into these careers requires a fundamental level of knowledge and expertise that unfortunately most Black folks, and specifically Black men, are lacking in the 21st century.
Yep, I was just like you. I worked during undergrad. I worked from 8 to 5. I went to school at night, man. I went from 6 to 10. I did that 4 days a week, man. And I still had to go to the library and do, what we do on the Brain Trust now. We were doing that back then in the library, study groups, for networking, Cisco networking and stuff like that, how to get your CCNA and stuff like that. We were doing that back then in the mid 2000s. So when I hear you say it, I don't feel alone, man, because I wasted a lot of time too. Not dating.
We all understand, man, that this is what it takes. Like, if you're going to really kind of tackle more of the serious sides of industry, right? And if you're going to do more of the critical, take a hold of more of the critical positions as it relates to our primary industries, health, technology, things of that sort. As you start to move up in the hierarchy of positions to be held and the level of responsibilities, there's more information that has to be acquired, and there's a heightened level of seriousness that you have to take in your approach to acquiring that. So it's just really a matter of, if you can, mature and grow to a point where you're able to harness and focus more of your time and your energy on things that will, one, they'll enrich you, but two, these are going to be things that you're going to have to acquire, because you're going to take a more serious role in society in terms of being in the medical professions. Okay, there's a difference between just a regular old CNA who comes in and takes your vitals and just says, okay, the doctor will be in to see you in just a minute, versus you being the person who goes in and actually does, a more of the assessing of the patient and all of that. So, these positions are going to be consumerate of the level of time and and energy that you're going to put into it.
And you're right. And specifically in healthcare now, with the current trends in healthcare, because there's just so much going on in the areas of data science and artificial intelligence and machine learning in healthcare, that the more technically proficient you are, the more of an advantage you have, especially if you want to do doctoral programs. I mean, the more technical expertise you have that you can bring to the table, the more of an advantage you have, because you will be dealing with large amounts of data. And I give you a prime example in an ICU where I'm normally at. And you pretty much, if anyone's ever been in ICU, for the most part, nurses run the ICU. Doctors just rotate through there. They just come through there and they'll ask the nurse, okay, well, what's going on? What do you want to do? And nurse be like, okay, I got to do so and so. And this requires a level of critical thinking. Like, you actually have to know what's going on with your patient and then be able to make an assessment and say, okay, well, what is this patient's current trend? Where are they going? Okay, well, this patient is septic, so they look like they're going down. They're going downhill. We're giving them all these pressors, and we're giving them all these fluids to try to get their blood pressure back up and all this other stuff. Okay, you have to be able to anticipate what are the complications are going to be, and on top of that, everything you have to do has to be what we call evidence-based practice, meaning that if it's not in the literature, you better give a damn good reason for why you did it.
Yep. Doctor, I can corroborate that, given, my wife had cancer, and, during her battle with it, I dealt mostly with nurses. I had discussions with doctors, but majority of the time, the interfacing was with nurses. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of folks, and specifically brothers, because I know a lot of mostly brothers probably watch this, why it's so important, and again, why these things should be on your list. If you go into an ER, who's the first person after you see that administrator that gets all your little information, give you a bunch of papers to fill out with your insurance and all that other stuff? Who are you going to see next? The nurse. The nurse is the one that determines whether or not are we go see you, and what order we going to see you. Basically, they triage you. The nurses do the triage.
And that administrative part that you mentioned is being automated now.
Yes, exactly.
They're coming up with robotic functions for that now. So now, like the institution I go to, there is no administrator there. There's one person, but it used to be 5 people. Now it's down to 1 person, but they have these kiosks set up where you walk up to the kiosk, it knows who you are. You put your fingerprint on it. It authenticates you. It calls your doctor, and then it brings it sends the doctor a page. The doctor comes out and it tells you what time the doctor's going to see you.
Yeah, no, exactly. I go to the VA, and the VA has been doing that for years. Yep. If you go to the VA, and your brothers that might be veterans or whatever, you go to the VA, there's usually a couple of administrators around, but 9 times out of 10, there's gonna be a kiosk there, and you put your information in, bam, they're just waiting for you, and you usually get seen by the nurse who does your basic intake, and then you get seen by whoever your primary care provider is. So again, this automation of some of these more rudimentary, more simple data entry jobs is happening. And most Black folks tend to exist at that level. You're doing basic rudimentary tasks and activities in whatever job you have, and those things are being automated. And again, so which means
repeatable.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say repeatable tasks of what's being automated. You're right about that. And we covered an article from the World Economic Forum that 10 of these jobs that are listed to be replaced by 2022. 8 of the 10 of those jobs, a lot of Black women are in those jobs, those remedial jobs, and their jobs will disappear permanently because of automation.
Yeah, I mean, and the same thing goes. I know I got friends that I know that work at the post office. They don't understand that eventually they gonna get rid of the damn post office. It's happening. It's just only a matter of time. And
well, Amazon will buy it out.
Yeah, I mean, right now you got so much. There's just so much upheaval going on right now at sort of these more at the basic of levels in society. As even where I'm at here in Milwaukee, where the Brewers play at. There's a McDonald's near there, but the McDonald's is automated.
Yep.
And again, I don't, and the folks that are be able to be, that can be able to run these automations, be able to run the machinery, be able to run these systems are the folks that are going to have the jobs in the future. It's not these basic. Well, I just keep it just basic jobs or basic employees, if you will.
And that's part of the narrative that we've always been pushing here is that, when the discussion always comes up about, what's going to happen, when these jobs get automated, it's okay. Well, look, the task, like what Mike said, repeatable task. Okay. You're going to basically put an apparatus in place that can do that. And there's an intelligence algorithm that can carry it out. There's no need for a human. However, who do you think develops the algorithm for this? Who do you think is who's actually doing the deployment? Those are humans. So you have to get on the side of you have to get on the deployment side of it. You got to get on the development side of it. You have to get on that side of the game and not be subjected to that side of it.
Again, like I said earlier, we're living in an era where, now, I mean, there's such an explosion in the areas of genetics, and most people think genetics is all about these biological functions. Genetics is really a function of statistics. It's basically statistics, but obviously with a biological approach. And you're seeing it now where there's such a huge proliferation in the areas of genetics and genomics, where you're seeing things like pharmacogenetics, metabolomics, proteomics, and you're seeing how all of it, how you're getting all this data from these healthcare organizations across the country and worldwide, that they're being able to put these data into, they've been able to organize them into massive data sets. And you're getting data scientists and epidemiologists and folks with XYZ capability, or capabilities, I should say. And they're able to sit here and come up with these questions, and then come up with learning algorithms, coming up with, for example, one of the big areas now is that's happening in medicine and in biochemical research and biomedical research, is they need folks who are skilled at developing 3D models for biomolecules. You don't have enough people who are skilled in stuff like bioinformatics, 3D mapping and modeling, who can be able to map out these create these 3D real-time images of biomolecules, because some of them are so large and so complex, it requires a significant level of expertise. And so the folks that are able to do that in the future are going to be the folks with the jobs.
Well, we have a member of the Black Brain Trust, the first woman member of the Black Brain Trust, Nicole Ali, who's involved in designing CRISPR and things of that nature, who's in that arena. So she can speak to stuff like that. She's not here right now. I think she's on the West Coast, so she's pretty tied up. But she actually does that on her YouTube channel. So she speaks to that to a very high level.
Yeah, I had to check the sister's channel out. Yeah, because again, like I said, again, I'm not. I don't want to throw shade at brothers, because I do think, some of these, a handful of brothers been able to bring out some of these other elements of Black YouTube. And again, being able to, I would have never known about you gentlemen had I not listened to one of his previous broadcasts he did about a couple weeks ago. It was like a Hall of Game or whatever you call it. But again, but the conversations devolve so much with Black folks into, who's sleeping with what, and all this other crap about, I don't even, I'll be honest with you, man, a lot of this stuff, because I'm not even a YouTuber and I don't even really watch YouTube like that, but like all these terms I'm hearing about select brothers and all this other crap, I'm like, man, I know brothers that are 5'7" can pull the best looking females you ever see. I know brothers that are 6'5" and couldn't even get a girl to say they like. So I mean, again, it's just all this silliness that goes on, a lot of this detritus that happens with conversations, when the conversations are about what are Black people, and specifically what are Black men are going to do to survive in the 21st century.
Absolutely.
And and this Dr. Claudia Anderson talked about this. We've talked about this. Dr. Claudia Anderson is saying by 2053, we have now between now and 2053, Black people will have that window of opportunity to actually make that, to right the ship. And if they don't figure it out by 2053, it's game over. The fourth industrial revolution will take off so fast and so exponentially fast. There will be no more opportunities for you, because you'll get left behind.
I'll put these quick stats out here to just really put it into perspective. If people look at the history of nursing, for example, Black folks, the history of Black people in nursing goes back almost 200 years, believe it or not. And here's the thing, right now in the current day and age, about 80% of nurses are white females. About 7% or so are, about seven to somewhere between 7-9% are black females. Then you have about another 5 or 6% are Latinos, and then Asians make up the remaining. But then among that, you have about 10% of the total nurses are actually, about 10% of total nurses are males. Black men make up about 1%, actually a little less than that, of total number of Black nurses. However, when you look at some of the highest paying specialties within nursing, Psych NP, CRNA, we're talking about careers. For example, if you went through CRNA school, and right now it's only a master's program, but there are a number of I probably say about 2/3 of the programs are doctoral programs, but by 2025, I think they all would be doctoral programs. The average starting salary for a CRNA is 150 grand. That's a starting salary, straight out of school. Although most of the folks that I know that went to CRNA school, they start out somewhere between 160 and 200 grand. And the folks that I know that have been CRNAs for a number of years are making over 300 grand. Now you juxtapose that against okay, who are these CRNAs? There's about 54,000 CRNAs in this country. Black folks are only 1.4% of the total CRNAs in this country. And if you go to any nursing school, you will be so amazed at how many Asians that you'll see that are nurses, they got doctorate degrees, that it came from mainland China, came to the US, because in China, they have nursing competitions and they send a lot of nursing students and faculty over to China to compete in these annual competitions in nursing. But again, in China, nursing only goes up to a master's level. So you get a lot of really young Chinese nurses, and not even just Chinese, Asians, because you get a lot of Koreans too.
You get Filipinos. They're real big in nursing here in California.
Oh yeah, I'm not even about to go there with California Filipinos, because I'm just gonna put it to you this way: they're absolutely killing the game out there.
Killing it.
They just destroying the game. And where I'm at here in Wisconsin, man, you got the Asians killing the game out here. You got white folks killing the game out here. I was in school with students. I mean, you got Arabs going into nursing now. You got Indians. Africans. I mean, they're actually, if you heard me on the King Sigma channel, I was talking about when I was in the nursing program. I got a lot of love from the African females that were a lot of diaspora females that were in the program with me. And again, it was just, I mean, again, I'll just keep.
Did you spit some red pill game? Is that what it was?
I don't do all that crap, man. I don't even know what all this red pill stuff is, man. I'm just go. It's like I say, it's no shade to the brothers out there that talking, but I don't know what all this crap is, dude. I really don't. I ain't start hearing all these damn terms. Look, I grew up in Chicago.
Oh, real world data, real world experience, man. That's what this is called, man.
My take on it.
You know what, Dr. Phoenix? Because as somebody who works in medicine, do you prescribe those sort of pills?
No, look, I mean,
are these things FDA approved?
Look, man, we love to put bandages and we love to put terms on a whole bunch of things that I think black folk, and specifically black men, they do this level of pontificating that, it's silly talk as far as I'm concerned. All this red pill, blue pill, all that crap, purple pill. Look, you're making something very convoluted. I'm old enough to where, when I was growing up, you still actually had to get out there and talk to a woman, period. But I'm also young enough to have grown up in this tech generation. So again, it was kind of sort of, I'm at the cusp, but I was at sort of the cusp of where technology just really started to sort of take a foothold into the everyday lives of people. And so again, you still had to develop it. And just in healthcare, you have to have people skills. That's just the way it is. What the hell I look like going to a damn patient room and I'm just silent and can't talk to them? And I got family sitting here asking me what's going on with my loved one. My dad been taking amiodarone that he's been ordering for Canada for the last 20 years without seeing a cardiologist. So now he has fibrosis of the lung. His alveoli done crystallized in his lung, and so now his oxygen saturation is like 70% if he's on a damn BiPAP. And so if I take him off of it, he's gonna die. And they said, well, how long you got to? Well, I can't really talk to you about that because I don't have no people skills. So, that's how it works. So again, just being in healthcare alone, you do. Message. Yeah. You have to have people skills, period. If you're in tech, if you go to you was talking about going to meetup events. I've been to plenty of meetup events. And I'll tell you right now, here in Milwaukee, it's so crazy what's going on here in Wisconsin. There's so many startups here. I got a good brother that I'm working with because I do some research with a hyperbaric medicine physician, and there's a good brother who's an alma mater at my school, and he's working on a PhD in computer science, but he's working with us, and we're developing a he's developing, I ain't gonna say where, but he specifically is developing an app to help us do 3D wound modeling and mapping, so we can stage wounds and map them out according to the anatomical placement of the wound. So again, so all of this other stuff is just, as far as I'm concerned, it's just really detritus, because again, we're living in an era where knowledge is king, knowledge is the moneymaker here.
Yep.
There's just no two ways about it. We have to be able to show that we're one, prolific in understanding what's being propagated out here, and then how do we apply it and utilize it. So again, as far as I'm concerned, all these other bandages and all these names that we apply to a bunch of nonsense and non sequiturs and all these red herrings and stuff like that, I don't do that. No.
Doing this
So let me ask you this. Yeah, let me ask you this. What's your thoughts on telemedicine?
Telemedicine.
Leveraging smartphones, tablets, smartwatches, to get better statistics and better statistics in communication with the patient.
Well, right now, telemedicine I can tell you right now, it's an exploding area in medicine. Specifically, it's not as big as what is projected to be in the coming future. And right now in telemedicine, for example, this goes back to what I was talking about, the research that I'm doing with a brother that he's a computer scientist out of the UW system. And, this is one of the areas we're looking at. He's developing this as part of a mobile app for iOS. I'm working with him along with this hyperbaric physician. And so, we're looking at all these things, and also with a physiologist who was my professor when I was in nursing school. So, we're all working on this. And so part of this is being able to where patients can sit there and take a picture of a particular wound, let's say a diabetic foot ulcer. They can take a picture of it, and then the app can scan it and analyze it and stage it and tell us what's going on. And we get that data, and then we can best determine what would be the next course of action. But if you want to do something more traditional, let's say if you need to see a primary care provider, but you may live out in a rural area where, it might be an hour away to get to a hospital or see your primary care provider. What telemedicine is doing is that you can literally see people from your home. And I have personally met and know of nurse practitioners and physicians who do telemedicine, do telepsychiatry. And if you're in these fields, I tell you right now, some of the starting salaries I see just doing this as a part-time gig was upwards of 150 plus. So telemedicine and telepsych and just telemedicine in general is going to eventually revolutionize how care is delivered, specifically how care is delivered in hard to reach areas and geographically segregated areas, and specifically also helping people where you don't have to keep traveling to your primary care provider, for example, 2 or 3 times a month, and they're like 45 minutes away. It is an exploding area, and in the next few years it is going to be a principal way of how healthcare is delivered. So again, the folks that are responsible for developing those technologies, and stuff like that, again, you stand to, if you can do this, you'll be at the cusp of something big. And again, you stand to make a lot of money, assuming you have the skill set.
Yeah. So lead into that. These in 2008 during the crash, during the recession, there was a lot of hospitals that went under, and they're still going under right now.
Yeah.
We had a couple of them recently go under, but what's starting to emerge now are these sort of pop up clinics and stuff like that that are really short run, right? You don't have to go into the ER. You go straight to the small clinic that's the size of a shipping container. You go right up in there. They take care of you, and then you're in and you're out within a few, maybe a half an hour at best. What's
Yeah,
your
you
thoughts
know,
on those sort of
oh, you
portable
talking about
clinics?
the yeah, you talking about like the urgent care clinic stuff like that. Yeah, and
Well,
and
a
that
little bit
is
more advanced, a little bit
yeah,
more advanced, like these what do you call them, nurses on
quick
wheels or something
yeah,
like
yeah, like
that.
it's like quick care clinics, like urgent care,
Yeah,
quick care clinics. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Here's the interesting thing about that. When you think of some of the biggest pharmaceutical, when you think of some of the big ones in pharmacy, so like CVS, Walgreens, specifically CVS. Let's take CVS for example. Target also is
Mm,
Target and Walmart are also really big players in this space too. But specifically CVS, if you're a nurse practitioner, for example, CVS has a whole program where basically you can set up your own clinic. It's basically they'll help you get the resources. You're pretty much under them, but you set up the entire clinic. It's your business, it's your operation. You run it as you see fit. And they do this
yeah,
for folks. You can start this soon as you get out of nurse practitioner school. And so they do this. Why? Because again, what we're seeing happening now in healthcare, for example, is that ERs are being turned into primary care offices.
yep,
Most folks are showing up in the ER not because they have some urgent or acute issue that needs to be met, but because one, oh, I've just had diabetes for the last 10 years and I have a lot of pain in my legs because I have venous insufficiency as a result of my diabetes. So I have this infection that doesn't go away. And so these are primary care issues, however, but because they never had access to a primary care provider, then now it's become more of an urgent issue. Now,
Right.
now you have
yep.
to
A
now
lot
you
of
have
it.
to get hospitalized. You have to get seen for this because instead of having a primary care provider that can manage this and help you and help it not progress there, now you're looking at somebody that potentially might need to do what we call a transverse amputation, a transverse metatarsal amputation of a foot, or we also call it a partial foot amputation. Or if it's even worse, we might have to do a below the knee amputation because you don't went all these years without, with uncontrolled diabetes. So now you have this really urgent, acute issue that requires a lot more specialized care and more expensive care. So again, that's why you're seeing these popping up, and these are good business ventures for folks who are in specifically. Now, I know a lot of folks talked. I know there was the one brother that asked about being a PA, but I think in this area, I think nurse practitioners have a little bit more of an advantage simply because nurse practitioners and nurses in general have their own license. A PA's license is an extension of the physician's. Nurses have their own license that are issued by the state board of nursing in whatever state you're in.
Yep.
And
Mm.
so again, and because you have at least about half of the states now that have independent practice for nurse practitioners, and I'll imagine that probably in the next 10 years or so, it's probably going to be all 50 states. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen in our lifetime and very soon. So again, this is an area where, especially for the folks that are really young and you're thinking about potential careers, and again, this is an area where it can be very promising for even for a family practice doc that maybe you done got tired of seeing all these outpatients, all these patients in the outpatient setting, and you just got tired of dealing with folks and all their issues. Because I mean, again, I deal with a lot of chronic health issues, a lot of folks who technically are primary care patients. But again,
Hmm.
these things are almost always nightmares. I mean, if you ask the average person dealing with these kinds of patients, man, these folks come in, they got like 20 different meds. I have to go through all of them. I got to see why you're taking it. I got to find out I got to see if you got to get the correct dose. I'm saying I got to check to make sure you're getting correct dose. Are you taking it properly? Are you taking it for the right thing? I mean, there's just so much knowledge that you just need to have. And a lot of folks don't understand why some of these careers are important. And again, one of the big areas you see a lot of physicians and nurses that are moving into these areas of tech. A lot of them are consultants for places like Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
They're consultants to biotech companies, pharmaceutical companies, and actually there's a new career.
Walgreens.
Yeah, exactly. There's actually a new field of what they call medical science liaisons that have been popping up over the last decade or so, where you're seeing folks
Yep.
who have specific expertise and specific medications or disease pathologies or whatever that are specialized, and they're getting hired by pharmaceutical companies, and they do a lot of teaching, and they go around teaching, physicians and nurses and folks who do clinical research and stuff like that on various medications that these companies are developing and how they will be beneficial in these clinical trials to patients. So I mean, there's just so much going on and just so much that you need, and to just bring this back around to the whole idea of these quick care clinics. Understand these are all things that you just need to know at the base level to be proficient at even running something like this. You have to understand that if a patient has diabetes, you have to be looking 10, 5, 10, 15 years down the road for a lot of these folks, because most of these folks are not going to be able to manage their diabetes, and they're not going to do it well.
Right.
Now you're talking about traveling. Now you're talking about traveling nurses instead of the patient coming to the hospital. The nurses coming to you through via a Lyft ride or something like that, or Uber ride.
Yeah, I mean, again, and again, this is a big area that's exploding right now, where you're looking at quick care, you're traveling nurse practitioners, traveling PAs, travel docs. I mean, in the old days of nursing, that's how nursing functioned. Prior to the 1950s, that's how nurses functioned. They would travel nurses. You visited homes, you did home visits. That's how it worked. Even in the old days of the physician, that's how it typically worked. You did home visits. So, I mean, we got away from that, obviously, because hospitals got bigger. And certainly in the 80s, you had a number of congressional acts that passed that allowed a lot of funding for new hospitals to come into play. And so that's why you saw a major growth of big MCOs and healthcare and managed care organizations and stuff like that popping up in the 80s, because you had a lot of congressional money that went into making sure that happened. And so again, for folks right now, this is where it's at. Going back to even the telemedicine thing, healthcare is evolving to the point now where it is you're learning how to manage. Excuse me. You're learning how to manage a lot of you're learning how to co-manage a lot of patients who have multiple comorbid conditions. Meaning, when I say comorbid, I mean conditions that can ultimately lead to your death, and that's what's happening right now. And that's why these quick cares are so important. And specifically is that you're helping to alleviate a lot of the pressure off of ERs and primary care docs. Why? Because I mean, not just docs, but primary care providers in general. Because why? Because this is what you're dealing with. I've seen people regularly. They come in, they have diabetes, they got atrial fibrillation, they got congestive heart failure, they got chronic kidney disease, they got kidney failure, they need a kidney transplant. I regularly have dealt with folks that have 4, 5, 6 multiple comorbid conditions, and you need to be able to learn. You need to understand exactly how all these pathologies come into play and how they all influence each other. What is driving these specific disease pathologies in these patients? And believe it or not, this is not the realm of just physicians. You need to know this specifically as a nurse. Because why? Because you're the one that has to do most of the education for the patients.
And there's other areas too. If you don't want to go to college, Ford launched a platform. We discussed this last month. Is it autonomous vans? I think Mano was on the panel with me when we discussed this. Autonomous vans that are designed to pick up. Basically, they're non-ambulances, so they're not emergency vehicles. They're actually autonomous and designed to pick up the patient and take the patient to their next appointment and then drop them back off autonomously.
Yep.
I mean, again, these are major areas. I mean, they're looking at stuff where they're considering automating EMS services. I mean, you're looking at a lot of stuff where technology is going to have an extreme impact on. I mean, just basic everyday stuff that we don't think about, but we take for granted. I mean, just basic everyday services. And we're seeing it now as sort of at the small scale, but certainly within our lifetimes. And I would say it's definitely within the next 10 or 15 years, this is not going to just be something we talk about in theory or the abstract, but this is going to be a part of everyday life.
Mm-hmm. Who just came on? Oh, that's feedback. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, the quick care clinics, brother. I mean, again, these are prime areas for folks who are in healthcare, especially nurse practitioners and physicians who might have got tired of the regular, the grind and dealing with primary care or whatever, where you can make a huge impact and is really good for for those with an entrepreneurial mindset and a good business sense. I mean, these are prime areas for target. That telemedicine, I cannot stress enough. There's a very good brother I follow on YouTube. He's a orthopedic surgeon, but he had a physician on there, a family practice physician, and she built out a whole telemedicine network. Now it's just only for physicians, but she talked about just the exponential amount of growth that she experienced with this telemedicine platform that she uses. And that she helped to, that she created after she finished her residency. And again, these are areas where, massive applications of technology and just and people who are skilled at developing and testing and deploying these technologies, they're gonna be in the game.
I just want to share this article here. It says Ford expands its Go Ride medical transport service in Detroit. Earlier this year, Ford launched its Go Ride service, which provides non-emergency transportation to patients who need a lift to their medical appointments. Initially, the service launched as a partner with Michigan's Beaumont Health Network, and now it's also working with Detroit Medical Center and its 8 hospitals and facilities, helping patients with mobility issues or no access to transportation make it to their medical appointments on time and in a safe and comfortable manner. Is a key part of delivering on our DMC mission. So this is essentially Ford turning the ambulance into a Lyft or rideshare service.
No, and you're right. I mean, again, everyone is jumping into the healthcare industry because right now, in terms of tech, this is the new frontier. I mean, where you're dealing with, biotech, biopharmacy, biomedicine. I mean, again, nursing. These are all major areas where tech has always had, but more so in the 21st century, will have an extreme influence on how it's delivered. And so again, it's not just enough these days to be a person that is just skilled at being a healthcare provider. No, you need to know all of these things in the 21st century. You need to know how to navigate your way through EHR, electronic health records. You need to know what to do with all this data that you're tabulating. And to give you another very clear-cut example, anyone that's ever been in ICU and you go to the nurse's station, you notice you see all these monitors up where you see all these little things. You see the little systole lines and all of that stuff. You see the heart rate monitors and all of that. This stuff gets generated if you're in the ICU, for most folks, it's going to be somewhere between every 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how severely sick they are. So again, and this is for every patient. So again, you just having these large amounts of data that's just being generated that no one does nothing with. For example, you can look at the average stay of somebody in a hospital, specifically in an ICU. The average stay of an ICU is anywhere between, on the low end, it can be about $15,000 a day, upwards to $50,000 a day, depending on the hospital. If you had a Johns Hopkins, you can only imagine what that's going to cost. So, but again, now the average person tends to be in ICU for roughly anywhere about 4 days to maybe a week. But again, if you look at all this data that gets generated 24/7 over a 24-hour period, you having patients that are having their heart rate monitor, they're having their pulse monitor, they're having their oxygen saturation monitor. I mean, you can see a number of different things that's going on. So if you're looking at these monitors, the moment somebody's O2 saturation drops below 90%, the alarm is going on. You got to go find out what the hell's going on with this patient. So again, and if you can track that, if you can look at that over a trend for that patient or any other patient on any given day, the data starts to tell a story. And then so you begin to be able to devise questions from this data. And so what happens? The person that can devise these questions and then come up with answers to it is the person that wins the game.
Yep. Yep. And to jump in and really add some more emphasis behind what you're saying, I'm a part of the IoT consortium group, and one of the things that they've been talking about doing is linking up, GE Medicine with Philips, with Siemens, with a couple of the other manufacturers, so that all of their medical devices actually can communicate with each other on an open source protocol, so that so that there's interoperability between these devices that are connected to these networks, and that's a part of this fourth industrial revolution in medicine. How do you make all of these newly adopted technologies actually function and interoperate as a single unit, even though they're from different brands and they're different manufacturers. They have to figure out how to get these things to work, and that's some of the stuff that some of the events I've been attending this year and last year on some input on that. And blockchain comes up a lot. Certificates and things of that nature come up a lot, of how do you certify a device. Because a lot of the stuff that gets manufactured in China, that stuff is could be pretty janky, if not downright espionage-based equipment. So there needs to be some standards and regulations and stipulations put in place before adopting these technologies in medical facilities.
And that gets to probably one of the biggest issues dealing with healthcare and dealing with and just the fact that you deal with so much data in healthcare is that security is an issue. It really is. And so again, folks who are skilled in areas of cybersecurity and stuff like that, they will stand without reason they would be in a very good position to be able to make quite a bit of money. Again, these are areas where you're just because you're seeing just such the huge influx of the influence of technology within healthcare. And again, I'm glad that you brought that up, talking about where you're having all these different medical device manufacturing companies, because one of the big ones, if people don't know, is a company called Stryker out of Michigan. They have an associated medical school. Is in Kalamazoo. I can't remember. It's Western Medical something. I can't remember the name of that medical school. But again, the Stryker family started that medical school in Kalamazoo, Michigan. It's a new medical school, only been around for about 3-4 years. But again, this is one of the major problems as well in healthcare, is that you have all these different healthcare industries, and specifically when you're dealing with electronic medical records, where you're dealing with some of the big players. The big one in the field is Epic, but then you have Cerner, you have Allscripts, you have some of these other folks out there, and so
Medicorp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so they don't talk with each other. None of these various companies don't have the ability to share data, share the information, talk with each other. So again, and again, this is part of the reason why healthcare in the VA tends to be very messy as well too, is because you have all these entities that are in play, but none of them have the ability to talk to each other. So again, you might go to one entity for some need, and you go to another one for a different need. And again, what you did over there is going to will not be made available to that entity that you have to go see, because maybe you need to get a bone debridement because you got a diabetic foot ulcer that got infected, and now it went from just being a soft tissue infection into a bone infection. And that's an area where if you get bone infections, just for the record, anybody gets bone infections, just understand there's next to little that you can do outside of surgical. Bone infections are notoriously difficult to treat, and if I'm being honest with you, antibiotics might only be, at the best case scenario, about 5% effective against bone infections, just so you know. But then again, any infection that goes to the bone is very serious, just to be clear. So typically, that if it does go to the bone, you do have to get an amputation at some point. So
yeah,
again,
and a lot of black
just
people,
throw that out there.
a lot of black people Yeah, a lot of black people avoid going to clinics and hospitals because of these kind of myths and tropes about, people going there and waking up with missing limbs and stuff like that. Malpractice for the most part. That may have happened before, but you have to worry about the right now and going forward. So a lot of black people avoid going to see doctors, especially black men. Man, they just avoid going to the doctor. It burns when it burns when I pee. Well, nigga, you had better you had better register.
Yikes.
Go see a primary physician or something. They just avoid going, and by the time they do go, it's too late. It's almost too late for you to take care of what you're talking about.
I'm glad you brought that up, because this is one of the big areas that I've done research in, because most of my research has been specifically targeted at black men. That was part of the reason why it drew me to you gentlemen in the first place, because mostly black men over here. And I want to be really, I'm not trying to be mean when I say this, because I think it needs to be said. Most black men can give a damn about their health. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to be really honest with you here, because the amount of literally dragging folks by the collar you have to do just to even get brothers to even recognize, to even just acknowledge the fact, yeah, there's something going on with you. One day you wake up, you got crushing chest pain, it goes away. Then the next day you say, then a few minutes later you say, I'm fine. One day you tell me, oh yeah, man, I had this serious migraine. It just came out of nowhere. I don't know what it is. Or, yeah, man, I have a bowel movement, and yeah, there was blood in the toilet. I don't know, man. This is what I have seen regularly. And I get a lot of brothers that come to me offline, and they talked about these things, and first thing I'm getting, what the hell's going on here? I can't even tell you just a number of times I've had brothers come to me like, yeah, I'm a diabetic, but yeah, I take these medications, but okay, brother, well, when last time you had your A1C check, and what was your fasting glucose level this morning? Yeah, my blood glucose was like 600. What? Someone tells me that their blood glucose is 600. First thing I'm thinking, are you okay, man? And you got the vast majority of brothers walking around just like that. They're sick. And go ahead, brother.
No, I was just going to say it's interesting you brought that up. I just saw we covered a device some months ago, but basically it's a device that connects to your iPhone, and it I think it connects to Bluetooth, but it checks for your glucose, and sends that information up over the Bluetooth to the app, and from the app to the doctor, to your primary care physician. And then, the next day or within that same day, your primary care physician is issuing a walk-in, a direct walk-in to get treated.
Right now it's so prolific. You got devices that do this just on the fly, where you got, where you can just do these little finger sticks, and you can get immediate glucose levels. You do a lot of this. Like I said earlier, I talked about I had mentees. I've taken my mentees with me to various health fairs, and I've showed them how to do some of the basic stuff, like how to do a health assessment. What do you need to be looking for when you're out here in the community, and and what do and what kinds of patients do you think you might find out here? You go find what and pardon the expression, the walking dead. Literally folks who are coming to you, and and this is very true of the brothers. I can't let brothers off the hook on this one, is that black men are regularly showing up. Your A1C is 12%, which is extremely high. Your blood glucose is 500, 600. I'm asking you, brother, can you see correctly? Your blood pressure is 200 over 120. Okay, brother, how are you even walking? I feel just fine, man. Are you sure about that? Yeah, I'm just fine, brother.
And they drink, and then they drink malt liquor. They drink the malt liquor. They out there, drinking all that, Patron or whatever it is. These poisons that they put in their body that exacerbates the issue even more until it's way out of control. There was a woman that we knew. She had kept saying on Facebook that she has migraines, and she kept trying to self-medicate through Reggie, bad, these cheap weed. I think Complex can probably speak more to that, but she eventually blacked out, man, when she was driving and crashed her car, man, and they took her to the hospital, man. They did a CAT scan and saw that she had a tumor
Tumor.
in the head the size
Yeah.
of a lemon head, piece of cane like an alligator. So when they took it out, man, she was a vegetable. So that's how black people were rolling, man.
No, I mean, literally, like I said, again, this is something that I see, like I said, I'm here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So, I see this a lot, again, I'm out there fairly regular. Just a week ago, I was at a homeless shelter here in Milwaukee. And, I was just doing some basic health assessments for the homeless brothers. And unfortunately, probably about half of the brothers there were veterans, which that's about right for pretty much any area you go to. Any major city you go to, probably about a good quarter to a third of the homeless population are veterans, and many of them being black. And so, and this is a fundamental problem where, I and some of the things I've done, for example, this year long, I regularly do health lectures every Thursday. It's one of the oldest churches here in Milwaukee. And I was invited in by one of the ministries of health here. And, I do regular lectures. And so one of the lectures I had going on for about a month, it was a series called Symptoms You Shouldn't Ignore. And basically, I talked about stuff just like what you talked about, migraines that just come out of nowhere that don't seem to go away. Just issues. You seem to have issues. You wake up one day, you just feel like your eyes are really tight, or you feel like you just have these spots in front of your eyes, or you feel like you got these vision issues, and then like, okay, well, I feel fine the next day. Or you have this pain in your chest that, it just kind of comes and goes, or you feel this weakness in your body that just kind of comes and goes. And I talked about what are these signs and symptoms of. And so many, and you'll be amazed at how many folks will actually really, that experience this on the regular. I would say upwards of probably about 2/3 to 3/4 of the people that I talk to have this on a regular. And these things get wholeheartedly ignored. And as black men specifically, where I'm at in Milwaukee, the mortality rate for prostate cancer and colorectal cancer is 6 times that of their white counterparts.
Jeez.
So let me ask you this then. Why is like Breast Cancer Awareness Month overshadows prostate cancer, testicular cancer for men? Why is that always more emphasis being put behind the breast cancer rather than the latter two?
Because men don't push it. That's the fundamental fact. Everybody knows who goes to see their providers the more, men or women. I mean, the short answer to that is that women are far more proactive in their health than men are. That's the long and short of it. Men are not proactive in their health, and black men specifically are not proactive in their health. So again, when you hear all these things like Walk for the Cure, the Susan G. Komen Foundation, I mean, these are things that have been around for decades, and women are very active. You see when you have Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October, you see you got the NFL talking. You got the NFL; they're wearing their pink cleats and everything. I mean, you see it all over the place. You see the buildings light up on your skyline. If you're in any major city with a pretty vibrant downtown area, you'll see the skyscrapers are generally lit up pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So again, women are.
How do we create a platform that actually, brings attention to that then?
Brother, that's the $1 million question, because I've been trying to do this for like the last, pretty much since I was an undergrad. I have personally have been invited to men's groups meetings. I have personally hosted them. And again, when these things come into it, and I just hate to say this, and I know some folks might not like what I'm about to say, but there's a lot of damn misinformation out here with brothers. A lot of brothers that listen to a lot of folks that have zero healthcare experience, giving out medical knowledge, telling you all this crap about all these holistic things you're doing. Don't get me wrong, I believe in holistic care. But you got a lot of folks that don't know what the hell they're talking about, that are propagating a lot of false information. And I've seen this firsthand on many, many occasions. I'll probably say with 90% of brothers I meet, that I'm taking some herbs for this. I got some essential oils for this. I dip my foot in this thing, and I run an electric current through some water, and here's a form of electrolysis, and now I'm like, what? Yeah, whatever, man.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
dealing.
I've seen guys. I've seen guys licking 9-volt batteries, to try to self medicate. So
I mean, I'm, I have never, ever, ever seen and heard some of the stuff that again, like I said, I was a medic in the army for about 6 years, so I've seen some crazy stuff. But again, just some of the stuff I just see out here with what brothers are engaged in, and just some of the levels of uh, disinformation that's being proliferated out here and unfortunately through mediums like YouTube and Instagram and social media as a whole. There's just a lot of stuff that I hear. I mean, I've had brothers tell me, you would be amazed at some stuff, and I'm sure a lot of you, I imagine a lot you brothers know folks in healthcare, and they'll tell you some of the crazy ass stories people will tell you. People come to you all kinds of psychosocial, spiritual stuff, and like, look, brother, look, man, you got told 5-6 years ago you were pre-diabetic. You come to me 6 years later, you didn't do nothing about it. Now you got diabetic retinopathy. You got a massive foot ulcer that's never going to heal. And so now it's infected. You keep getting infection. It keeps coming back. So now that infection done gone to the bone, brother, now you got to get an amputation.
Yeah.
Well, what can I do? I can't do nothing for you now, brother. It went to the bone. Any infection, and this goes back to what I said earlier, any infection that goes to the bone is virtually untreatable by antibiotics. At best, it's a 5% chance that antibiotics might be effective against any form of osteomyelitis, period. That's called a bone infection. And again, I don't know, again, and you deal with this level of apathy among brothers. I routinely have had brothers come to me, talk about like, yeah, man, I go to the bathroom, brother, I have some rectal bleeding going on. I'm like, brother, when last time you had a colonoscopy? Well, I ain't never had one, man. Well, when last time you seen your primary care provider? Ah, man, I ain't been to the doctor in years, brother. Like, brother, you need to go see someone. Do you have a primary care provider? You're in Wisconsin. You have Badger Care. You have all these. You have some form. You have If you're over 55, you have Medicare, Medicaid. What's going on? Well, I don't know, brother. I'm like, I mean, again, this is a major problem. Black men are
and they
not proactive in taking care of their health. And again, I don't expect brothers to be perfect, and we all have our vices, we all do our things, but just some of the most basic of things that we should never ignore, brothers routinely ignore, then wonder why you show up to the ER, and then you get seen by a doctor, or you go see a primary care provider, and they just kind of got this nonchalant look at you. And part of it is, yeah, I mean, we can talk about racism in healthcare, very real issue, but a lot of them is that you got to understand, these folks seeing, like, if you're in healthcare, anyone tell you, seeing 30, 40, 50 people sometimes a day, and you see the same stuff every single day. So again, it's just routine. You just become another number in the process.
Yeah, I see black people trying to, go to CVS and Walgreens and Rite Aid, and they're trying to buy these off the shelf vitamins, and I'm like, why don't you eat organic food? That's where your real vitamins are going to come from.
Yeah, you don't. And again, and there's a lot of research out there that correlates to what you just said. A lot of research shows that vitamin absorption from taking pills is very low. The best way to get vitamins in the body is through the foods you eat. Yep. Period. I mean, there's a lot of research that correlates to exactly what you just said. And again, this is one of the things I even talk to brothers about, eating, how to eat better, just doing basic stuff. Like I said, I meet so many brothers, probably most of the brothers I meet, to be really frank, most of these brothers look like they're in their second and third trimester, man. They got bellies 3 feet out in front of them.
Oh, man.
And I'm like,
man.
Brother.
I know them. I know a few of them, man.
And I'm like, and then they talking about like, yeah, man, I got BPH, I got benign prostatic hyperplasia, which enlarged prostate. I'm like, brother, can you just lose, brother? You can stand to lose about a good 50 pounds. What's going on, brother? Yeah, man. I
I've
just eat this stuff, and it's. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible, man, because you see some of these brothers on these hangouts, man. Now I'm not calling out anybody out in particular, but you see these guys, they're out of shape, ain't seen the gym since the gym seen them, probably since the Clinton administration. It's outrageous, man, to come on here and complain about a woman, women not wanting you, and you're one cheeseburger away from a heart attack, man.
No, I agree. I fundamentally agree. And again, um, one of the major things is that I just talked to brothers just like, brother, if you just got down to a healthy BMI, brother, do you realize how much of a drastic change in health that will have for you? Just getting to a healthy weight will have such a dramatic effect on your health. And again, I talk to brothers all the time about what is a good barometer for good health of men. One, can you get an erection and can you maintain an erection? Do you have a morning erection? If you can say no to either of those, you have issues.
Ouch.
So again, I talk to brothers about, I have very real and candid conversation with brothers. And again, even just being honest with brothers, and like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm beating up on brothers because again, I have never been perfect in my life, and I go to the gym and do all these things too. And I've had my moments where I put on a few pounds and then I lost a lot, then I lost a few pounds. Again, I'm only like 5'9", but I've never been no more than 180 at my heaviest. And again, but I see this all the time with brothers. And so again, just getting brothers just to address the simple fact that we have the shortest lifespan of any group of people in this damn country, by far. Black men on average live to about the age of 65 compared to 60, 65 compared to on average most other groups of people are living somewhere in their 80s to even 90s. Black men are living 10 to 15, even depending on where you're at, even 20 years less than everyone else. I mean, we saw earlier this year, John Singleton, a 51-year-old man, a relatively young man, died from a massive stroke. He checked into it. He went into an ER. He was having symptoms, went into an ER, had a damn stroke in the ER. He was dead a couple days later. This is what happens. And this is what happens on the regular.
I think Bernie Mac died pretty early too.
Yeah, Bernie Mac was about the same age, died from sarcoidosis.
Charlie Murphy.
Murphy, man.
I think he died as well.
Yeah, Charlie Murphy died from leukemia. He had a form of leukemia, which is, it's really sad because I'm a real big fan of Charlie Murphy, and the what's interesting, his wife died from the similar type of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. And again, we just saw earlier this year, was it the guy from 90210, Luke Perry, about the same age as John Singleton, died from a massive stroke. And one of the things I spend a lot of my time when I do talk to brothers and teach them about these things and about all these risk factors is that understand something. For men, our risk factor for having stroke, heart attack increases by the time we're age 40. Why? Because one of the major protective factors against high cholesterol is actually testosterone. So once you enter your 30s, testosterone begins to taper off in your 30s, really picks up a little bit more once you hit 35 and older. But again, testosterone starts to taper off in the body. So you lose a lot of those protective effects of testosterone, which means by the time the average guy gets to about 50, he has more estrogen in his body than the average woman does of the same age.
Yep.
So again, and so this is why you see so much. That's why now you see so many brothers having strokes at 30 in their 30s. They're having strokes, heart attacks at 40 years old. I know brothers that have had strokes at 30 years old. Unheard of.
Mini strokes too. I don't even know what a mini stroke is.
Yeah, TIAs. We call it transient ischemic stroke. That's what they call mini strokes in a clinical setting. They call it transient ischemic strokes. When I talked earlier about, you got weakness that comes and goes, that's a sign of a mini stroke.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And the reason we call it a mini stroke or the clinical term transient ischemic stroke is the word transient means the symptoms come and go. You might get right or left sided weakness. You might have felt weak when you woke up in the morning. An hour or two later, you're feeling just fine. You might what was a good example? The one rapper Nate Dogg. I don't if brothers remember him from the Dog Pound. Nate Dogg.
Yep.
You know, he died. If you guys, you can Google this. This brother died when he was about 43.
Yep.
But this guy had multiple strokes and a heart attack at 43.
Yep. I mean,
multiple strokes.
It was all the Henny and the herb and not drinking water and the poor eating, and man, just there's a lot of brothers out there that got that kind of. I know. See, I'm from LA, man. I know a lot of just like them, man. Like a lot of my older brothers, homies. You know, I've known a couple of cats. Actually, man, one of my brother's best homies, man. It was kind of like the same thing, maybe around the same age. Yeah. And he passed away in his sleep, man. Forgot what they said it was, but he kind of similar lifestyle.
And that's what we're seeing now. And again, in the clinical setting, what I have noticed and what we've been seeing and what the trends have been for a number of years now has been that you're seeing younger and younger Black men dying from chronic kidney failure, meaning that the kidneys fail to the point where you need to have a kidney transplant. And so you need dialysis, usually complications of 1, high blood pressure, 2, diabetes. We're seeing that in men as young as 30 years old. You know, we're seeing brothers dying. We're seeing brothers dying from massive strokes in their 30s. Why? Because they have extreme high blood pressure, uncontrolled blood pressure. I personally have had mothers of men my age come to me, said, like, can you talk to my son? You know, he's in kidney failure. He's 35 years old, and he needs dialysis. He needs a kidney transplant. And I, you know, and she like, well, I said, well, can you have him come out to one of the lectures? You know, you don't even have to talk to me. You don't even have to ask me things publicly. He can just talk to me offline. You know, him and I can talk, or you can give him my number. He can talk. She's like, okay, yeah, here's my card. You know, have him give me a call. You know, he can talk to me offline, and, you know, we can, you know, I can work with him and try to get him into some shape here. And again, health is not really that complicated, not the way people make it out to be. It really isn't. But again, people, you know, Black men specifically, we're seeing these complex health issues that are popping up in younger and younger Black men. You know, again, if you look at just some of the overall statistics.
You playing that on the red pill?
No, this ain't red pill. This is, I mean, if we're being really honest, I mean, you know, I really hate to do this whole thing, but I think this really needs to be said. If you look at the top 5 causes of this of death for Black men in this country, and this is per the CDC, the number 1 cause of death for Black men 18 to 35 years of age is homicide.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I hate to do this because this needs to be said, because we do have a lot of craziness going on. And then right under that, you have heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and so forth. But the reason I have to talk about this is because, yes, we are seeing that, but you're also seeing that a lot of these numbers are starting to reverse, because now what's happening, diseases that were normally diseases associated with aging, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, we're seeing it popping up in younger and younger populations. And so now, instead of, you know, now I would argue now that not only is homicide a major cause of death from Black men 18 to 35, but you're seeing chronic diseases that are starting to creep in, to starting to take the place of the normally what have traditionally have caused early mortality for Black males in that age group. So when you look at that, for example, I have. There was a one brother that, you know, him and I were talking, and, you know, he just asked me to consult with him on some stuff he had going on. And this brother in particular had atrial fibrillation. So if anyone's not familiar with that, that's an irregular heartbeat, and that can actually cause a stroke too. because what happens is that the ventricles don't properly empty out, so you have blood that remains in the ventricles of the heart, and so that blood begins to dry and clot, and then that clot can eventually move to the brain and cause a stroke. And so then this brother needed a kidney transplant because he was in kidney failure. But the problem was that no anesthesiologist would touch him because his heart function was below 50%. In fact, it was about 30%. And so again, so I was like, okay, well, let's see what we can do with you. Let's work on trying to get your heart function. So, this dude was on a cocktail of medications and such like that. Eventually he got his heart function up, but the problem is that now he's too old to get a kidney transplant. So now he's on dialysis for the rest of his life. And anyone, if you all ever known anyone that's ever went through dialysis, they would tell you dialysis is very rough. And a lot of black folks don't understand that we may be about 13% of the population, but depending on which numbers you're looking at, black folks are about 50% of the people on the kidney transplant list.
50%?
Yes. If you go to there's national there's a national registry for kidney transplant for pretty much any transplant. National Cancer Registry, you pick it. There's usually a national registry for, and depending on which numbers you're looking at, the black folks anywhere between 43 and 50% of the total number of people waiting for a kidney transplant.
The other aspect to that, to what you're saying, the early deaths for black males. I see black men, taking these prescription drugs from people who have prescription drugs, just taking them just to pop pills. And like, you don't even know what that thing is for. You don't even know what the prescription is for, and you're popping it because you want to get lean or something like that. You want to feel you want that buzz, that high, and it's like, well, are you kidding me?
I mean, again, one of the key things that that like I said, because many drugs, specifically many your supplements, brother, I'm sure you brothers are familiar, but the supplement market is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Why? Because it's unregulated. The FDA doesn't regulate that. It's not controlled at all by the FDA. You can come up with something, it will make your penis magically grow 5 inches longer. There's no FDA.
Well, not even that.
You don't even need FDA approval for that. You can just bring it to the market.
Well,
I'm not
even talking about that. I'm talking about like somebody's grandmother or grandfather, who needs certain types of prescription drugs for themselves to survive. You have some of these guys in the street just buying these prescription drugs and redistributing it on the street, and then buying it $10 a pill so they can get high. And they're like, you don't even know what that's for.
That's I will say that is a major problem. I have seen that, but I think that's a bit more prevalent among white populations. Black folks tend to not do that. They tend to not be pill poppers in that aspect. They do it in other ways, but not taking your grandmama, big mama's medication or whatever and selling it for $20 a pill. I don't typically see that. I do see that a lot when I do have in white populations. I will say that much. I don't see it's quite as much with black folks, but I do think the problem is that what happens is that black folks will give another black person their medication. Say, yeah, take this. That's what they'll do. Mm-hmm. They'll do something like that. And then again, you're like, okay, why did you take this? Well, they said they took it for this. Well, just because they have it for this doesn't mean this medication is going to be effective for you. Again, we know that, for example, in healthcare, we know that beta blockers, there's a medication that we give for high blood pressure called, there's a class of medication.
Wait.
Beta male blocker?
No, we call it beta blockers because specifically it attaches to the beta 1 receptors of the heart, and it helps to reduce the reduce the oxygen demand on the heart, thereby lowering the blood pressure. But again, so but specifically this class of medications, we know that it's been well known for a while that Black people don't respond particularly well to beta blocker medications. Why? Because we tend to have a very specific kind of hypertension. So we tend to have what we call portal or loop hypertension, meaning that anyone's familiar with the anatomy of the kidney, you have these little tubules that are like in loops, that are called loops of Henle, and this is where the filtration and all that stuff happens. And in the case of loop hypertension, all those particulates, those that they get filtered out there, actually don't get properly removed from the kidney, so it causes damage to those particular cells in that part of the kidneys, which raises blood pressure. And so typically, that's what many black folks tend to exhibit, that kind of blood pressure, so that kind of hypertension. So what happens is that they might have been given a beta blocker, but they find out, yeah, it didn't really do nothing for their blood pressure. And again, I don't 100% believe that giving pills are always the answer to everything. Because if it was me and someone says, well, my provider told me I was pre-diabetic, they gave me metformin. My first suggestion to them would be, you need to go see somebody else, because I don't think you should ever give somebody a pill if they come to you and they say they're pre-diabetic, for example. You really don't. Even if they came to you and said, well, my doctor said I have high blood pressure, or I'm borderline high blood pressure, you don't need a pill for that. You just need some good old fashioned exercise and getting your diet right. That's it. You don't need a pill for that, but most folks would rather have a pill. And it's sad, but it's true. Most folks would rather have a pill because, unfortunately for most black people, we think we can have our cake and eat it too. And that's not how your health works.
Yeah, what I want to do with you, man, is or what we want to do with you, the Black Brain Trust, man, is kind of formulate a campaign for Black male health, man, health improvement, health advancement, ways that they can go about doing, getting the low hanging fruit, checking their scrotums and things like that for lumps, or deformities and things like that, checking their breasts and stuff like
Actually,
that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I know you talked before about the testicular cancer, and that's something I didn't touch
Yep.
on when you mentioned it.
Hmm.
Testicular cancer is something that you see in younger males, just to be clear, usually in their mid-20s, 30s. And so,
Why is that?
it's typically because a lot of testicular cancers come from the fact that, unfortunately, might have
Skinny jeans.
you might have sustained some type of damage to the testicles. A lot of guys might have been born and the testicles did not properly descend when you reached puberty. And so that can cause issues. I mean, there's a number of issues. There's also some dieting and some other issues if you're exposed to, various chemicals that are carcinogens. But in general, also, believe it or not, if you're wearing your pants too tight, that causes issues too. Just so brothers know, you know, So I know you probably see a lot of brothers walking around here with skinny jeans and all that stuff. That does. You're not really supposed to be wearing something that kind of restricts movement down there, if you will.
Hmm.
So again, this was that.
No, I was just gonna say that's interesting points. I always thought the testicular cancer comes in at mid to late stages of your life, not in the early stages. That
No, we typically see prostate cancer late stages and later in life. But
okay.
however, what's happening now is that we're starting to see prostate cancer in younger men, specifically men late 30s, 40s. And right now, national guidelines dictate that men around 45, 44, 45 years of age should be having prostate exams at that age. But when I talk to brothers, I tell brothers, you need to start now, probably in your late 30s, early 40s. Because again, black men tend to get diagnosed with more aggressive forms of prostate cancer, and also at later stages. And again, if people aren't familiar with the pathology of prostate cancer in many cases tend to be slow growing. However, in black men, like I said before, black men tend to get more aggressive and faster growing versions of it. But once prostate cancer metastasizes, it is untreatable. Up until that point, a very treatable cancer. You have a very high cure rate with prostate cancer if you catch it at a early. So
Uh, I also heard some stuff about you can kind of tell by a person's nails whether they're ingrown or not. That can be it can
Yeah,
denote other oncoming issues.
yeah. So I mean, yeah. Actually, I get to that. To answer section 31's question, what causes prostate cancer? There's a number of things. Probably the biggest issue is fat. Again,
Hmm.
when you're overweight, and I talked earlier about, meeting a lot of brothers that look like they're in their second and third trimester. Again, if you have a lot of belly fat, if your waist abdominal circumference is high, you understand, if you have a lot of fat in you as a man, you also have that fat around your prostate, and that fat around your prostate is pathogenic, meaning that it causes inflammation. And the result of inflammation, you get these compounds called cytokines. You get all types of inflammatory reactions that occur in the body, and that can ultimately lead to the formation and development of cancer, of prostate cancer. But again, just lowering the amount of stop eating once. Major issue with prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is what we call a hormonal mediated cancer, meaning it's grown off of it mediates from overproduction of testosterone. And what happens is that when you get prostate cancer treatment, one of the first things they give you is androgen suppression therapy. And so basically what it does, what androgen suppression therapy does is pretty much it stops for the most part, stops the production, or significantly limits the production of testosterone, because testosterone feeds the growth of prostate cancer. So again, what happens is that a lot of folks don't understand that fat acts as its own hormone in the body. Fat in and of itself is a hormone. So it acts abnormally and can replace the function of other hormones in the body. Because anything, whether you're dealing with estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol, which is the stress hormone, these are all hormonal and cholesterol derived. All your hormones are cholesterol derived, meaning that they're formulated from fats. So again, when you consider that if you have a high belly fat, and understanding high belly fat comes from eating high amounts of fat, whether it's animal meat products, you eat a lot of fatty products. Black folks love their fat. They will cook. They'll cook the hell out of some greens in a crap ton of lard and fat, and ham hocks and whatever, your salt pork and all that stuff. I don't eat none of that stuff. Yeah, exactly. Chitlins are all fat, just so black folks know. I never ate that stuff. My parents were Muslim, so I never ate that stuff. But I had a lot of family members that ate that stuff, and a few of them are dead now, and they died from cancer. And so again, these are things that brothers need to take into account. Limiting the amount of fat that you in your diet is very beneficial for one, keeping belly and waist and fat off your pelvic area, but also too, but it also too helps to prevent the growth of fat around your prostate. Again, when you go in there, your PSA is really high, your prostate specific antigen test, that's the one with it. Doctor, puts his two fingers, whatever. But again, when you think about that, one of the major things they do is that, and one of the things I suggest to brothers when they say, "Oh well, I had a PSA and it was pretty high," I said, "Well, what do you eat?" And again, limiting the amount of fats or replacing those bad fats with good fats. So, for example, don't go out to some soul food restaurant and you done ate a half a bucket of fried catfish. Probably not the best thing in the world to eat. What can
I was just going to say that complex design actually, he's heavy into the green thumb and gardening and growing his own food and stuff like that. So complex can probably speak to that as well.
No,
Yeah,
I
man.
mean,
Yeah, I mean,
it's great.
I would say it's it's more than just growing your own food. It's also a stress reliever.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you talked about that, because that was actually
Mhm.
one of the things we did in the lectures I was doing. I do at the church. There was like I said, my mentor, she was the one that was leading some of the lectures, and specifically, she brought in other nurses who actually did gardening, and she brought in research that was showing how gardening actually helps to alleviate stress, how it's very good for a number of things. For if you got a significant other, if you all do it together, it's a very good bonding experience for you and your partner. It's a very good stress alleviator, and two, it's also a good way to try to get kids to eat healthy. If you make them a part of that process of gardening, if you have children, you have grandchildren, or if you have children of your own, and help them get involved in that process, helps them to understand the importance of growing your own food and ultimately consuming healthier food.
Yeah, and it's
yeah.
like with my daughter, she's out here active with me, and it's like she has no problems. Like we'll pull like cherry tomatoes right off the plant. I'll just rinse them off, pop them right in the mouth, and she's like, this tastes better than anything we ever get at the store, Dad. So even with her, early on, she's just how she feels, how it tastes, all these different things, and then just watching the plants grow and stuff. Like I even went and bought her a Venus flytrap like about a week ago. So we repotted that. Now that's over there growing along with some of the other stuff. So yeah, there's what would be the term you would give it? I don't psycho. I'm trying to what term you would give it, like, right? Like there's like health for the mind as well as for the body in terms of the nutritional value, but there's also what it does for like stress relief and other things, man. It just kind of brings stress relief will also bring the blood pressure down.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. Because again, one of the major things that gardening allows you to get something that a lot of folks don't have, especially in the state. If you're in one of these northern Midwestern states like I am in Wisconsin, you just get some good old fashioned sun, get some vitamin D, and there's a strong correlation between
absolutely
stress levels, lack of vitamin D, and depression. A strong correlation. Typically, people who have low levels of vitamin D typically exhibit some form of depression.
Yep, that's the truth.
Higher levels of stress. So, I mean, there's a lot of research out there that demonstrates this correlation. So again, like I was saying before, yeah, this was some of the things we spent probably the last couple months before, because I don't do it now because we took a break for the summer, but I'll be starting it back up in the fall. But again, this is one of the things where, we where we have talked about that we talked about was gardening, and just doing sort of like doing gardening in your own home, and doing gardening, in making it maybe making it into a community thing. Because again, as far as I'm concerned, I part of the things that have really interested me and kind of took me on the path I've been on for the last few years now is that I just got tired of watching. I know a lot of folks that died really young that should have never died from simple diseases, chronic diseases. I know folks in my own family that died from stuff like preventable cancers, like cervical cancer. No woman should ever be dying from cervical cancer. But again, my aunt died from it because, again, probably had one of the worst damn appetites I can think of. She drank a RC cola every damn day for as long as I can remember. I don't think I've ever seen her drink a bottle of water at once in my life. Never.
Damn. Yeah.
I use RC Cola to clean off my battery terminals.
Yeah.
The terminals on the car, right?
Yes.
Get the corrosion off.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's very good for dissolving corrosion. And, again, this is something that people ingest. Think about that. It's good. It makes a good cleaning agent for the terminals on your car battery, but yet people drink it. So, again,
I think they should be banned.
Yeah, I think in its current form, and probably one of the biggest culprits, and I do hate when people do this. I hate when people say, well, okay, I just drink a diet soda, because diet sodas are probably even worse than regular sodas.
I was gonna say, isn't a diet soda worse?
Yes, they are. They're far worse, because again, you get tricked because it says 0 calories and all that stuff. And yeah, no, it might be an artificial sugar, or it might be a natural sugar, but your body processes it the same way. Your body treats it the same.
Mm-hmm.
So again, and the thing about the diet so is that you're more prone to drink even more because you think, oh, well, it's healthy, it's 0 calories, and in reality, no, it's there. Your body still treats it the same. And folks wonder, well, I don't drink the soda, I just drink the regular sodas, but I'm not losing weight. Well, you still drink soda.
Yeah, and why do I have these heart palpitations?
So again,
Mhm. I just wanted to ask real quick because before we close out, after 11:30, we'll probably close out by 11:45. But real quick, this meatless revolution is happening right now. You see a lot of these meatless burgers, these veggie burgers and stuff like that. What's your take on that as a substitute for protein?
I tried. It's interesting you said that because about a week ago I tried that Impossible meat it was at a Qdoba. And I just tried it just to see how it is, and then I didn't even think to look it up initially when I tried it, and one of the things that I learned later was that after some research was that essentially that it's soy protein for the most part. It's just soy protein. There's some other plant proteins in there, but probably at least about 2/3 of it is soy protein. And again, there's no real designation in whether or not it's GMO or non-GMO or organic or whatever. There's no real designation, so you don't know how they sourced it. And so my take on the meatless thing, I think what's happening is that the restaurant industry, the fast food industry understands what the headwinds are. They understand that many people are moving towards a more plant-based diet. They're moving away from some of the more traditional forms of protein, i.e. animal proteins, and they're moving towards plant-based. And I think this is one way to capitalize on that movement. And so, it's a good way to think about it. But again, one of the most heavily utilized GMO crops outside of corn is soy. And
soy boy.
Yeah, I mean, you walk into a store these days, you'll be hard pressed to not find half, 3/4 to 80% of the products in the store have some form of soy in it. It proliferates just about everything you consume. And so my fundamental take on it, I'm not wholesale against it if you actually knew how they sourced it. Because again, and this is one of these areas where, people need to understand biopharmaceutical research. They need to understand biotech and understand that, there are patents for these plants. There are only there's specific seeds that certain companies hold. You think of companies like Monsanto and stuff like that. There was just a recent massive class action lawsuit that they lost against a brother who developed a terminal form of leukemia for using some of their Roundup products. I know you guys probably might have.
He won like $250-something million when he sued them.
Oh yeah, and they're fighting like hell to reduce that amount. But again, but they're also facing other multiple class action lawsuits. These companies that utilize these products that are again, based on that. And again, the funny thing about soy is that there was actually, if I remember the story correctly, if you guys are familiar with the Agent Orange from Vietnam.
Yeah.
With the Agent Orange, if I remember correctly, it was actually derived from the soy protein, the soy plant. It was a biology PhD at Harvard who came up with it. And I can't remember exactly what it was done. I think he might have used it. He was trying to isolate this particular protein to be used as a form of a pesticide or whatever to create a pest resistant strain, or it was something, I can't remember what it was. But if I remember correctly, the government got a hold of, the DOD got a hold of, oh, we can weaponize this, we can turn this into, so they turned into Agent Orange, and and the rest was history. They end up dumping billions of gallons of this stuff all over the jungles of Vietnam. And so it's only within the last 10 years.
Puerto Rico as well.
Yeah. And it's only within the last 10 years where the VA has actually finally acknowledged, like, yeah, we had this whole generation of service members that were exposed to Agent Orange, and they have subsequently have caused a number of genetic defects and mutations in their children. The Vietnamese have experienced numerous genetic defects. I mean, they were still finding traces of Agent Orange in the soil up until just a few years ago.
Recently, yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad was he actually received, because my dad was in Vietnam, and so he actually received benefits, like VA benefits, because he was exposed to it during his time in Vietnam. Like they actually they did a settlement with a lot of the Vietnam vets who were exposed to it at that time. So there's a whole bunch of different benefits and stuff that those vets receive, for being exposed to that.
No, and this is and again, I've dealt with a lot of veterans from there. And oh yeah, actually, that reminds me about veterans, because I know we kind of got into the whole health thing, and I know you guys were talking about tech, but I did want to bring up this quick point. If you brothers know veterans, or they're veterans that listen in on you guys, the VA just started a new program called Vet Tech. And basically, all you need is just to have 1 day left of benefits on your GI Bill. And if you do, the VA will pay 100% for you to get retrained in an IT field of your choice.
Where I wish Lionel was here.
Lionel's a vet.
Yep.
Lionel's a vet. See, Boogie's a vet. MOT is a vet.
We got a few.
Cerulean's a vet.
Yeah, they just started this program I want to say about a month or two ago, but if all you need is just to have 1 day of benefits left on your GI Bill, if you have it, they will pay 100% of the cost to have you retrained in an IT field of your choice. So I did want to just throw that out there, because I know, again, a lot of the brothers, if not most of the brothers on here, are in the tech field. So again, if brothers were interested in getting into the tech field, that's, and you're a veteran, you got a hell of a resource with the VA.
Do you have like a name? Is there a name for that, or someone want to try to look it up and maybe post a link?
I think it's called Vet Tech. I believe it's called Vet Tech. I think it's called Vet Tech, VETTECH. Yeah, so, but that was actually, I was just remembered, that was actually when I wanted to initially talk about, because again, it's so easy for veterans, and, just to kind of shift away from the healthcare for a moment, it's really easy for veterans to get into the tech industry. Very easy, especially if you got a security clearance.
Because that's where your government contracts come in.
Yeah.
Veteran tech, Vet Tech program.
Yeah, I think it's called Veteran Tech.
Oh, yeah, I found it right here. Vet Tech. Yep, here it is right here. I'm going to post a link.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it was something I was meaning to talk about, because there are programs. Every major city, state, they have programs that are geared towards veterans. Like I said, where I'm at here in Wisconsin, this is a very veteran-friendly state. Extremely veteran-friendly state. In fact, they have a pretty major campaign going on right now where they're trying to attract veterans who are in STEM and in nursing and medicine and stuff like that to this state, and they're offering them all kinds of incentives and bonuses. So yeah, even brothers who are in the trades. So again, brothers who are in the trades, I know you guys talk a lot about transportation, and these are major areas where you're seeing tech is going to probably have some form of will disrupt it in some form or another, with automation and stuff like that, So I think I have a couple of good friends that I haven't spoken to them in years, but I know for a fact these brothers were DoD contractors. They were in tech. They did tech in the Air Force and the Army. They were doing IT stuff in the Army and Air Force, and they got out and was picking up they picked up certifications in the Army, got out, was easily making 150, 200 grand, pretty damn easy.
Yeah, and they get preferential treatment in the field as well, because for leadership positions, because if they were able to lead a battalion, they're probably able to lead an office as well of weak men. So
Again, if any of the vets too that were in the healthcare fields in the army, specifically those that were, I mean, not the army, in the military, specifically those that were Navy or Navy corpsmen or Army medics. I mean, like I said earlier, if you're interested in fields of healthcare, because like I said, there's a big convergence of IT tech and healthcare. There's this massive convergence. I mean, you got nursing programs, you can have a BSN in like 18 months. I've seen some in as few as 15 to 13 months. I mean, 13 to 15 months, excuse me. So they have whole programs. I mean, the VA will pay for it. I mean, there's just too many opportunities out there for a lot of brothers. And the great thing, if you're veterans, and the great thing about being a veteran, if you're a brother, is that I was the comment I put up earlier in the chat about, yeah, if you're a veteran, you got access to special SBA loans. I mean, here where I'm at here in Wisconsin, I can tell you right now, the University of Wisconsin Milwaukee, they actually have a veteran entrepreneurship program. So if you have a veteran, you go through like this 3-month program where basically it'll show you how to write a business plan from top to bottom. And the brother it's a brother that started this. It's a brother. He's also a close mentor of mine. He's a retired Air Force pilot and a family practice physician. And he wrote the grant for this through the University of Wisconsin Milwaukee's veteran Upward Bounds, because I used to be a tutor with them. And and this program will show you how to write a business plan from top to bottom, and they will get you investors. If they like it, you would be able to present your business plan before investors, and they will invest. And if they like your business plan, you will get investors on the spot. And
now,
and
a
it
quick
will,
question.
yeah, go ahead.
No, if you served in the Salvation Army, for those brothers, does it apply to them as well? Does vet tech apply to them as well?
I don't know about the Salvation Army because that's not considered the military per se. I'm not so sure about that.
But if you're guarding the clothes, isn't that like national security? Isn't that like ringing the bell? Isn't that considered a form of national security?
If you're in the Guard, you said like the National Guard.
No. I'm saying if you're guarding the clothes, at these Salvation Army facilities.
No, I don't. No, I don't think so. I think they're not even considered military or any branch of the military as far as I know of. So I don't want to give brothers the wrong information, but I'm pretty sure the Salvation Army is not considered part of the traditional form of what's that?
Mike was being facetious.
No, I was being facetious, bro.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure about that one. Like I said, if you're in the you're in the guards, the reserves, National Guard, Air National Guard, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force. I mean, you're good in that regard. But I'm not so sure about the Army, about the Salvation Army. I'm not entirely sure about those folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So
yeah, just get some closing thoughts. Yeah, I think we need to get a campaign going, man. With some statistics and a chart and actually a actual figure of a mannequin and stuff that points out all of the areas where black, that can be effective for treatment, and really put a campaign together, man, and really put it out there.
Again, like I say, I talk to students quite often about careers in medicine, nursing, healthcare in general. You want to be a PA, you want to be a nurse. I mean, everyone doesn't want to do the physician thing, and you don't need to be honest. You don't need to make that kind of money. You really don't. Not in this day and age. It's too damn easy. I mean, you don't really need to. I mean, unless you really want to do that, this is something you dreamed about doing. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. But no, it's perfectly fine. You can go become a nurse, go make you 150 grand, go make you 180, 200 some grand, 300 some grand a year. You're fine. You still got plenty of money where you can invest. You can actually have a life, because you ain't gonna have a damn life if you're a physician, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And you still make a damn good living. You make enough money where you'll be able to you'll have to find stuff to do with it. So again, and there's always so many ways to skin this cat. And again, and the reason I spend a lot of time pushing, because like I said, when I went through my nursing program, there was 117 of us, and I was the only brother. You couldn't even, we took a class photo, you couldn't miss me. I'm the only damn brother in the damn class photo, and there was only about 8 black people total. So this is one of the areas where, and again, one of the things that tend to trip us up as black folks, and specifically brothers, is that, people say, well, it's nursing, it's not medicine. You do about 80% of the prerequisites you need for medical school, you need it for nursing. So you need a year of biology, of general biology. You need a year anatomy, physiology. You need a semester of microbiology, and many, if not most, nursing schools these days are asking that you have at least a semester of physics and a semester of genetics. You're gonna need a year of general chemistry. You're gonna need probably one course in organic chemistry, and maybe sometimes they do a combined course in biochem and organic chem. You're gonna need at least statistics. I took stats, and I took calculus 1, 1, and 2. So I was pretty solid on the math front. And again, these are all things that you would need anyway if you wanted to go to medical school. So again, and where most black folks trip up at is getting those prerequisites. And so, like I said, a lot of things I do with my mentees is that I actually help tutor them in a lot of this stuff for free. Again, if you go on a lot of these websites, the Fivers and the Craigslist or whatever, these folks that do the tutoring and stuff like that, they're charging ridiculous amounts of money. And so I would encourage every brother here. You got a lot of brothers that's on the panel, that's in the chat. They got a lot of expertise in different areas, network with each other, and again, because there's so few of us that are in healthcare. So it's not every day you meet a brother that comes along and, he's in healthcare. He's a physician, he's some health practitioner, he's been there, he's done it, he sees these kinds of things, get a chance to get to know each other, and take, and just soak up some of the information that, brothers put out here. And, again, like I said before, I like the brother O'Shea. I think he does do good things when he does do it. His Hall of Game, I think, is excellent. He brings a lot of good brothers on his Hall of Game, but some of the other crap I can't get with, but again, with that said, he talked about he listened in on some of you all, and he listens in on you all, and I checked you all guys up about a week or two ago, been listening in, and the information you all give is excellent. I mean, just breaking down just some of the geopolitical implications of of tech and what's happening out here in the areas of STEM and areas of STEM. And again, like I said, hopefully, I'll be able to bring sort of a healthcare medical aspect to try to explain, like, there are geopolitical ramifications for us not getting our act together and investing and becoming active participants in these professions. Because we can't sit here and complain about, oh, well, the doctor racist, the nurse is racist, they won't let me see the damn doctor, or the nurse made me wait for like 3 hours in the damn ER. Well, I don't want to hear that if brothers ain't being interested in becoming the goddamn nurses. Because you go to the hospitals in the damn hood, who's stacking those damn ERs? White folks. I don't want to hear that. Every brother should be invested in every brother should be invested in their damn health, and every brother should be invested in their health to the point where, yeah, I want this for my son or my daughter. There's no damn reason in the 21st century why we should not have a goddamn army of healthcare professionals that can provide the healthcare needs of black people in the 21st century. There's no damn reason why. You can go on Udemy, you can go on Udacity, take basic biology courses, get introductory courses. I mean, obviously there's not college credit, but at least it gives you an understanding of what you have to deal with.
Well, I was just gonna say, man, I was gonna say, I would say that, if you could be, more of a regular contributor with regards to the health side of things, right? Because I would love to. Yeah, we discuss a lot of things, man. But I'll tell you right now, bro, you just gave us about a 2-hour crash course, right, on a lot of things with regards to health, and that's been something. I would even say on other platforms, I haven't heard it. I haven't heard it at all, you know,
And that's
and
part of the reason why I got into this, because I have
yeah,
not heard it.
yeah,
You will never hear this.
yeah, dead ass, man. Like we haven't heard this type of stuff, and this needs to be, you know, and you know, maybe Mike agrees with me on this one. This is a hot button subject that I think that we'll now incorporate on the brain trust, because it is part and parcel with everything else that we talk about. How else are we about to go out and try to live productive lives if you know, if our health isn't in order?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
couldn't agree
Nagone
more,
talks
brother.
about all the time, man. Yeah, Nagone talks about all the time. Get your mind
Get
right,
your mind right, get
your
your
body
body
right.
right. Yep.
Yep, yep. So we also have again Foxfire. I wish he was here tonight, man. He's in North
I know he's
Carolina
busy.
himself.
He's busy, like getting his
Yeah,
finishing
yeah,
up. Yeah.
yeah. He's doing the same thing that Dr. Phoenix is doing. So same type of work. I think he was working down at the CDC at one point. So
Yeah, it's
um
funny because I had a brother who helped me do my McNair when I was a McNair scholar. He helped me do my project. He's an older brother. He went to school with Kamala Harris, so he was at Howard.
Okay.
But he actually used to work as an epidemiologist with the CDC back in the 90s, and back in the 90s he worked in Atlanta and Chicago back when they had those massive syphilis and gonorrhea outbreaks. So, you know, he was the one dropped a lot of facts on me about, you know, what was going on in Atlanta. You know, back in those days, you know, folks was go run out to Atlanta, go to Freaknik and all this other crap. And, you know, eventually, you know, they shut that down. But part of the reason they shut that down is because eventually
Public health issue.
it became a public health issue. Yeah, yeah. And
And that
a lot of folks don't even know
that's
that.
really that's really that's
Yeah, yeah,
that's
because
bad. That's bad.
no, and you know, again, you know, I would love to be a regular contributor on the health side, because that was actually one of the reasons I kind of started to come on YouTube, because I was like, okay, what the hell is people actually really talking about this stuff? Because I hear all these other folks, and you know, I ain't gonna throw the names out there, but there are a lot of folks out here talking about all these CDC statistics are incorrect. You know, they're lying.
Right,
You know, there aren't
right.
these high
call
rates of
it out.
STDs. And I'm like, do anybody understand how the hell they get these statistics? And this is one of the major differences of why getting a bachelor's degree in nursing is important. Because I had a whole semester when you're a baccalaureate nurse, you get a whole clinical semester devoted to nothing but population health sciences and public health. And I specifically worked in health departments, and I will tell you this off back: every major university, health department in every state has a CDC epidemiologist embedded in it. Every single one. You'll never know who they are because they just there. You'll never know where they're from, but they're there. And anytime you pop up in an ER because you got the drip, it burns when you pee, or you're a female, you got some foul smell or whatever, you got tuberculosis or you got chlamydia or whatever the case, anything that is considered communicable disease has to be automatically reported with or without your consent.
We
And
Wow.
we,
I
we talked about that last week. We talked about that last week on the platform with I think Lionel, myself, in Complex. You know, the way you mitigate some of these issues is by leveraging some of the technology such as blockchain, and making sure that there's QR codes that come down to your smartphone so that you can
yeah,
verify if this person that you're dealing with is on the public ledger, on a public list. Do they have a disease? What kind of disease do they have? If they have been affected in the last presidential cycle, these type of things need to be public information, and it should be accessible, just like you get a library book.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Again, a lot of people think all this stuff is just pie in the sky. This is just theory. Oh, this is some sci-fi stuff. People don't understand just how close we are to these kinds of technologies. People have no damn clue. And black people, I know this sounds wrong given my background saying this, but a lot of black people are woefully damn ignorant of just really the kinds of technologies that are being proliferated out here. Just stuff that we think that's in theory, but that's really just becoming
Yep.
early use, early practice.
Yep.
You know, and
You,
we call it from the bench to the bedside in healthcare and in biomedical research.
you know, it's interesting that you bring that up about the CDC people trying to debunk the CDC. I was listening to NPR one day. This was probably like a year or so ago, and the CDC came on there and was talking about the most recent infections of HIV in the black community and where it's coming from, and they kept blaming it on men. And I think the women called in and was basically trying to shut down the CDC's talking points and say the talking points are false and this and that. And like, how can you argue with the CDC with their numbers? Like, the stuff that I hear, black people coming with, it's a lot of mythological, non-factual points, and it's like this is not your area of expertise, so to speak. So
most black people don't have area expertise. Again, we understand, every single brother in this chat on this panel fundamentally understand black people have no fundamental expertise on most of these subjects. The problem is that, with the internet came free speech. It democratized free speech. The problem is it democratized free speech because now you got a bunch of clowns on the internet that sit here and talk about a bunch of nonsense, put out a bunch of misinformation, and black folks, and I've heard this, especially when you heard some of those stories coming out about the STD rates among black women, the herpes rate. I mean, just last summer they were talking about the damn STD rates in Atlanta being out of control, and it has always been out of control in Atlanta. Atlanta has been a hot spot, so has DC and Chicago, but primarily it's been Atlanta for a while, but actually the biggest hot spot right now is probably New Orleans. But
wow,
that's neither here nor there. And again, when I work with you brothers, and I can do a whole damn show just talking about that alone, because there are so many folks that I actually listened to for years on YouTube that I had to stop listening to because they started talking all this nonsense. I'm like, are you damn serious, man? I live in a city where you got babies being born with syphilis, black babies being born with fucking syphilis. Pardon my French here.
No, but that's real.
And you got black folks out here talking about, oh, these are lies and this stuff isn't happening. But this stuff is very damn real. And black folks have no fundamental understanding. How do they get this information? Black people don't even pay attention to the goddamn forms you fill out when you show up in the ER. You don't pay no attention to the forms that you fill out when you send down there. You have a regular appointment. Any person will tell you. Every time you go whether you go see your primary care provider, you go in for a new consult for whatever, you show up in the ER, you are going to fill out paper. And if you read those damn papers, it will tell you everything you need to know. There are certain things that it does not matter if you don't consent to it that they have to report.
Yep.
And it goes up a chain. And folks
so
like
you're
me,
saying if you're saying someone is infected, it gets put onto what, some kind of public domain for the public health.
It's not a public domain, but what happens is, so how it normally works is that, for example, if you show up and you have, let's say you have gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is considered a communicable disease. Why? Because, or STI. Let me be clear with the term STI. It's considered a communicable STI because you can easily infect another person. And so because that you might be a carrier, but someone gave it to you, so that person is a carrier as well. So what happens is that now someone like the epidemiologist and the nurse have to work together. So now we got to go track down all your sex partners, because when you filled out the information and we did a culture and we did a bacterial culture, meaning that we take a sample and then we test it to see what it is, and and that's how we find what it is and know what kind of antibiotic to give you. And so again, we come back, okay, it's gonorrhea. So now the public, usually there's a public health nurse. They have to go track down all the folks you've been in contact with, and they have to write up this report through the health department, and eventually it goes up the chain in the health department until it gets to that epidemiologist that is embedded in every major city in every single state. And usually they're usually associated with the schools of public health and medicine and nursing at any major state university. And so eventually what happens is that public health nurse and that epidemiologist, they're in close contact with each other. So they're emailing each other, they're talking on the phone. And so eventually that epidemiologist will get that report from that nurse has to generate, have to get that report, and then eventually, once that epidemiologist gets that report, then that goes into the CDC's big, massive database, and so they have all these epidemiologists and public health doctorates, because typically you have to be a PhD holder to work at the CDC, just so folks know. And eventually they get that into their database, and eventually you got a bunch of folks who are highly skilled, and they populate and tabulate all this data, and so this is how you get these statistics. But again, if you read the information when you're filling out these papers in a hospital, this is what, this is how you get the information. Same thing too. I was listening to this maybe about a week ago. Some folks were arguing about how the CDC is lying about these 80% out of wedlock birth rates. Again, how do they get it? Because when you're pregnant and you show up in that labor and delivery section, you have to fill out that papers. And who do you have to put on there? Are you married or not? Where is the father? Who signed the birth certificate? That's public knowledge. People
knowledge.
Know.
Yep.
People know.
Well,
So again, and you got folks running around talking about this stuff is lies on YouTube and on social media in general. This stuff is lies. This stuff is not lies. A lot of stuff can be made public, but stuff dealing with like communicable diseases like tuberculosis, syphilis, gonorrhea, stuff like that. No, that's private, but it is known within those circles, and so they get all this data. They have to report it, because you don't want an epidemic. You don't want an outbreak. And all it takes is 1 or 2 people infected, and you can infect 100 people in a matter of weeks.
Or a freak Nick.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the fundamental problem. So again, like I said, I love to work with you brothers, and I love to talk more about this. I know you guys want to get off, but I'll dig some more into this, because I think this really does need to be said, because I mean, there's a lot of damn lies out here that get told about all these folks against statistics. Oh, it's folks coming from the diaspora doing it. Ain't no damn folks coming from no damn diaspora doing this. I've heard all kinds of silly stories.
Well, we've all heard it. I mean, we trust. I mean, we listen to the same black YouTube, the same black YouTube you listen to. Right. Yeah. But we're yeah, it's the same genre, man. And it's like, we're raw with the numbers, and we're raw with the data and everything else that we speak on here. And we're the same way with regards to health statistics, So I mean, yeah. Yeah.
No, I agree. And just to close out, I agree 100% with what you brother said earlier. Yeah, I don't want to hear nothing about no brothers if you go complain about females, fine, complain about females, do what you do. It doesn't matter to me. Again, I'm a firm believer, brothers, do what you do, but at least get the basics done. At least strive to be productive men out here, being a 21st century man. And a 21st century man is proficient in areas of STEM, proficient in areas of health, in medicine, and healthcare, because you know what? To be a functioning human in the 21st century means you need to know something about all of these things. So I'll just leave it at that.
Cosign. Mike, you want to close it out?
Yeah.
Or we have some... Go ahead.
No, there's nothing in the chat.
Okay.
If you haven't hit the like button yet, please do so now. Share the video if possible. We didn't even intend to have an open chat like this, man, but this is definitely...
hey, man, this one was crucial. Yeah, this was crucial.
Yeah, this was critical. We got to definitely link up, the STEM and the healthcare aspect, like Dr. Phoenix said, and do a hangout just on that alone. Just go nuts on it.
Yeah, you have my email. That's my personal email. So, whenever you want to do something, you guys can link up with me. To the brother that was in the chat earlier that talked about he was an LVN, if he's still in the chat, just, send me an email. That's my email that's my student email. So I get that all the time. I check that every single day. So, just hit me up, man. I'll work with you. We can hang out, Skype, whatever you need to do. Just hit me up when you get some time.
Perfect.